Khan now stood at the front door as he entered the main headquarters of the assassin organization named the Red Right Hand. He was here to find the true culprits who accepted the contract and started killing his people. Too many people. I can't take them all by myself, thought Khan as he gauged the strength of the nearly 2,000 fighters. These were indeed one of the top professional killers who worked on a contract basis. As he strode within the crowd from one side to another, nearly 2 kilometers of the rectangular area was full of these fighters. Even the weakest one he sensed was a beginner master rank warrior. Khan also sensed 2 peak grandmaster rank fighters, one being a mage and the other being a female ogre who was a battle-axe warrior, who knew how many assassinations were conducted and lives were taken by these people. What he wanted to do here was look for the exact records and find out who were the people that targeted his company. Va hired these people to kill his employees. He wasn't stupid to think that out of all those people he offended that day, everyone was part of these targeted killings. He wasn't a psychopath to go and kill everyone because of mild suspicion. But by knowing the names of the people responsible, he would be properly able to exact revenge on those who were the root cause of it. During his stroll around the area, Khan was looking for the best ways to use the battlefield to his advantage. And the biggest and most key advantage he could use was none other than the ventilation system. Because this place was an underground facility, there were plenty of ventilation ducts coming inside, and the grid was made to supply air to every corner of this vast market-like floor. There were a total of 11 doors altogether from different sides, like the one Khan previously came from. And as the Wolfkin revealed previously, there were plenty of isolation barriers and detecting formations. Anyone stupid enough to break in through this facility won't leave out of here alive. And if not for Khan, who learned about the password and had the appearance of one of the well-known members, a Grandmaster rank archer, he too would have been noticed and caught as soon as he entered the tavern above. As he silently checked the nook and cranny and the divided sections for the big shots of this profession and those who had a rich clientele, he finally decided on how to deal with this situation. In half an hour, Khan silently and successfully planted 20 isolation formations, 12 anti-teleportation artifacts, and 6 domain artifacts of his own. And now, even if a big fight was to break out, nobody outside or above the ground would be able to sense the commotion. Khan now possessed over 30 fear toxin timer bombs. He planted 20 of them on different desks under the name of looking for a suitable contract, and then using his extension skill, he planted the rest in the ventilation system. After carefully rigging this entire facility to his favor, Khan decided that it was the time for the real thing. He went to the restroom and changed back into his old man Khan appearance. Now, he stood in the very center of this wide facility full of criminals and murderers. Clap, clap, clap. His loud clapping noise echoed and silenced half of the facility as he used a sound amplification scroll. "Listen, everyone. I have an announcement to make," he shouted, quickly garnering the attention of everyone who was going about their affairs. "Those who took the job of killing the Bloodborne Company's people, raise your hands. I have an extra offer from the main clients. They say they will give 50,000 gold coins to each person who previously accepted their contract," spoke Khan loudly. Gasp! Multiple people present here, let it be dwarfs, boaters, thralls or elves, suddenly had all of their attention on him. But only those who accepted the job previously are eligible for the next proposition. So those who did, raise your hand, declared Khan. Thud, flutter, one by one. Hundreds, then over 1,000, and then nearly 2,000. Almost 99% of the professional killers here raised their hand. "What the hell? How come all of you accepted the job?" asked Khan. "Ha ha ha. Pfft. Is he for real? What rock were you hiding under, dipshit?" Hundreds of people started laughing at him altogether. A purple thrall standing close to Khan spoke. "Don't you know? The contract on that company va killing their people paid 3 times the normal price. We all took it, but the client's instructions were that we all had to do it on selective days and in small numbers. Otherwise, it will reveal that an entire company was on a hit list and the total number of dead people would get noticed by the public." "Seriously, how do you not know that?" Khan was struck with surprise. He only knew that a selective number of people had taken the contract, but this was an entire organization-wise contract. And they even paid 3 times the normal price. Did someone really hate him to the core and wanted to see him and his company buried in the ground that badly? Hey, what kind of nonsense is this? Suddenly an old human mage shouted from the other end of the facility. I'm the one in charge of dealing with this matter and reporting to our clients. Who the hell are you? Really? What proof do you have that I'm not the one to relay their orders? Do you even have the ledger and contract details given by our clients? Retorted Khan. Yes, I do, declared the Peak Grandmaster Mage and took out a big record book from his space ring and placed it on the table. Now tell me, who the hell are you? I haven't seen you before either, asked the old mage. Since you guys are all so cooperative, I'll tell you the inside information, he declared and looked around the thousands of people full of different species, races and genders. My name is Zeus, and I have been ordered to kill everyone who took the contract against the Bloodborne Company. Declared Khan, Zeus, the archer, in his mature and rustic voice. Everyone who heard this sudden declaration was caught by surprise. What nonsense! By whose orders? Asked the mage in an enraged tone. Boom! Boom! Khan quickly released war dominance at full capacity and revealed his strength as a semi-saint rank archer to everyone present inside this vicinity. His pressure already put nearly 1,000 of the weak fighters on the ground as Khan then replied in his tyrannical and domineering voice, by the order of Peaky Fukin Blinders. Zeus. The archer's sudden declaration about claiming their lives left everyone present in the inner vicinity of this assassination organization stupefied. But as soon as he revealed his aura of a semi-saint rank fighter, everyone who found his claims absurd was left with no other choice but to take those words seriously. Impossible! How's there a semi-saint fighter here? How did he come inside without triggering the formations and alarms? Asked the female orc warrior with a bewildered expression on her face. Fool! Don't you see? Even if you're far stronger than us, do you really think you can take out thousands of us together? Spoke the mage in a tone full of scorn. In his opinion, Zeus was being too full of himself. Yes, I do. And about taking out all of you together. Spoke Zeus and pointing his forefinger towards the ceiling. Bang! 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 Multiple fear toxin bombs exploded from both the ground and inside the ventilation ducts, quickly spreading the dense white fog in this underground facility with each passing second. Attack! The old mage, on the other hand, quickly cast a lightning spell and shot at Zeus, who was over half a kilometer away. Crackle! The lightning spell approached Zeus with a speed so fast that no one could even register how fast it was. But to Khan, who now had his Hero of Darkness title in effect, which raised all of his physical attributes such as strength, defense, and speed by 3 times, along with 2 times increase in mana capacity and damage done with by magical skills and attacks, everything appeared very differently. His reflexes and speed was already on a different level compared to when he fought during the daytime. His aura alone was 3 times stronger already and nearly put 1,000 people on their knees in the 2-kilometer-long facility. By no means this was comparable to a first-stage Saint rank person, but it wasn't too weak either. When the lightning attack came closer to Khan, he found it rather slow. Khan sidestepped and saw the lightning spell slowly pass through his previous location. He was simply unfazed. Is this my peak now? I'm already faster than lightning? He thought as he was having his own version of Barry Allen dodging the batarang moment. The next second, the entire place was engulfed in this white fog and clouded their vision. Not a single one of his enemies was able to see him, and although there were some Mithrans present in the crowd, they too were affected by the hallucinogenic effects of the fear toxin that had made their senses dull drastically. Instead of waiting on a ceremony, Zeus quickly knocked an arrow on his epic rank bow and used the archer's lance skill by infusing his condensed mana with fire attribute and shot straight at the mage. Clang! But before it even hit the mage, the female orc warrior used her battle axe to quickly protect the old mage. Zeus's figure disappeared and he straight up ran in the direction of these 2 peak grandmaster persons. Because in this entire facility only these 2 had the strength to fight him. So he wanted to take out the strongest of the enemy side first and deal with the mobs later. Using Hunter's Intent, which was evolved to a SS rank skill now, he could already see their most vital organs. Executioner's Gaze. Zeus used the Executioner's Gaze skill on the female orc warrior and paralyzed her on the spot. He then used Subterfuge skill to change her perception of direction and sense. Stab. A dagger was stabbed right in her neck as she lost her life before the Executioner's Gaze skill effect ended. And the dagger came from another Zeus, a doppelganger to be exact, who used the Shadow Strike and appeared behind her at the last second. Before the peak Grandmaster rank mage could even collect himself, Zeus had already come 10 meters closer to him and knocked his arrow as he aimed to kill the mage. Boom! A loud sound of a barrier breaking resounded in the surroundings as his archer's lance skill broke through the defensive barrier this mage had and blew up his brains. He was already far stronger than these people after his levels rose. But with the Hero of Darkness title being in effect, it was like fighting against little children for him. He then knocked another arrow and used this same skill to break open one of the doors and provided an escape route. Remember, the Bloodborne Enterprise has semi-saint rank fighter backing them up. From now on, if anyone ever targets them, they're dealing with me, declared Zeus in his kingly voice. The next second, over 300 mana arrows varying from fire to water elements came into existence as Zeus used the Death Volley skill. Shoot! Shoot! Swish! These arrows then descended on all the murderers and criminals in this facility. Because of the fear toxin, they already were like a rat trapped in a cage and couldn't even react properly to the incoming attacks. Every wave killed 200 to 250 people. Every single one of them had blood on their hands, and killing these killers wasn't going to weigh down on his consciousness. Because if not for him finding their headquarters by his own, these killers would have murdered his people in the name of the contract. After over a dozen attacks of Death Volley skill, Khan had successfully massacred the majority of the people present here. All his skills had 3 times more damage, effective range, and force behind them. And because of that, none of these people were able to protect themselves even with their armor's defensive barriers. He now stood in the midst of punctured, burned, cut down, half-torn bodies of these professional killers. Although over 100 people managed to escape from the opening he made, it was all part of his plan. To make these people spread the news about how his company had a semi-saint rank archer named Zeus and how he massacred an entire assassination organization because they messed with his people. This was exactly what he meant about making a statement using his new persona AA Zeus, to warn off any future potential threats who may dare to do the same. The ones who escaped will do his free publicity amongst the underworld anyone who was looking forward to having a piece of him. Awaken, commanded Khan after he took the mage female orc's body in his space ring to use them later, as they were peak Grandmaster fighters after all. All these people were trained fighters with proper gear in the end, and he was already short on manpower recently, so no way he was going to let these bodies go to waste. Zeus then picked up the record book about clients this mage took out previously. He came to the middle of this room so the synthesis divine ability could cover maximum area for him to create more subordinates. This was a list. The list of people who were responsible for his people's deaths. Wanted his demise. He spoke with a ghastly and solemn voice as he opened the book. Now, I'll show them the real consequences of messing with me. Author. It's been a disheartening experience lately to see that people are angry over the plot. How stupidly conspired the Chamber of Commerce members. I do not like writing these things in a chapter, so I'll keep it short. First of all, Khan is in a place nearly 100 times bigger than Flavit City. He can't openly kill people under public eyes or mess with the authorities. He made the choice as the best means to warn even benefit from his enemies. And he's not an omnipotent god who can see know everything. At the end of the day, he's just a human, flawed like all of us. This was his lesson, that even sparing enemies just because innocents are involved can have its consequences too. Not only on him but the innocent people around him. That he's no longer responsible for himself but also for the lives of thousands of people who work for him. And he will take it to heart. At this stage, Khan is an antihero character in the making, not someone who is already established as completely cold va ruthless for the sake of it. But many people have been very impatient to jump to conclusions lately than waiting to read what happens next va how Khan evolves as a person from these lessons. People want character development but don't want the MC to make even a slight mistake. They want growth but don't want the setbacks. I guess from the next arc, I should make him a protagonist of those cultivation novels where you can openly kill dozens of people just because they looked at MC in the wrong way. Bitch slap your enemies to death in front of thousands of onlookers va law authorities and still get away with it because the laws, rules va regulations don't apply to our MC, points taken. Lots of mindless massacres in the next arc for sure. I aim to please. Khan now sat on a comfortable chair in the middle of the facility, holding the record book about the clientele of this criminal organization who worked as hired killers. So far, more than 100 of his employees had died at the hands of this assassination organization, and Khan partially avenged all the innocent employees who died as collateral damage va without even knowing why. Khan knew that, at the end of the day, he was the main person responsible who got these innocents mixed into a rivalry they had nothing to do about. Since it was his first time running a business va having 4,000 people work for him. Never had he imagined that someone who had an enmity with only him would hurt the people unrelated to that matter. All Khan's plans and precautions were mainly based on his personal safety va the people that were most important to him. But he hadn't factored in the safety of his normal employees when he revolted against the council members of the Chamber of Commerce who wanted to oppress and bury his company in the ground. Protecting himself wasn't an issue, but now he had become accountable for all the dead people. Although his choice was sound va reasonable at that time about sparing the lives of those business tycoons. Khan learned the hard way that even the good choices have bad consequences. So after partially avenging all those who died because of this contract, Khan was now looking for the one who gave the contact in the first place. Only then would they properly be able to pass. Khan checked through pages after pages. Each page filled with details about people they were hired to kill. Apparently, plenty of business organizations and influential figures used these hired killers to take out the competition and for various reasons. And when Khan finally reached the last page after quickly scrambling through, he finally found the list with all the names va details about the clients. Daenerys Targaryen, Tywin Lannister's sister, Robert Baratheon, Eddard Swark, Yora Borjamir, George M. Rarton, Houdini Warsmike. Spoke Khan as his eidetic memory kicked in and he remembered who these names belonged to. On that day, he had given a detailed look and memorized the faces of all the members of the main council, as well as the names written on their respective chairs. And these names belonged to 7 out of the 13 members. He now knew the exactly responsible people and how they collectively spent 30 million gold coins just to have his company disappear out of existence. And Khan could finally move to his next step without killing someone who didn't deserve it. After an hour, all the new 1,000 subordinates were ready. Armin jumped out of Khan's shadow and asked, "Where to now, master?" "Now. We crossed the names on the list," he replied as decided that it was time for deliverance. He wasn't a fool to wait for the next day till the news spread about his deeds and the culprits were informed. So everything had to be done in this single night. Khan in his Zeus persona covertly left the facility and moved to his next target's living addresses. Although there were only 4 hours left till sunrise. It was enough for Khan as working in the dark was his specialty already. He now stood a kilometer away from a mansion that was even bigger and wider than his own. Now he had more than 1,000 new subordinates in the Legion, so he was anything but short on manpower. Swoosh, swoosh. Nearly 100 assassins, 30 archers and 20 mages came out of his body. All of them were equipped in decent gear and they were past level 80 because of the merging process, and Khan used 20,000 rank cores to upgrade these new subordinates. The low-level fighters will no longer prove useful to him because even the weakest fighters in Rathna were at least level 45. "You know the rules, and so do I," spoke Khan as he telepathically commanded the members of Legion about what approach they had to do using the hive mind skill. Including this mansion, the entire property itself was 2 kilometers wide and over 400 armored personnel were at the night patrol. Khan commanded all the assassin Va thief subordinates to defuse the alarm traps one by one as his mages Va artificers took care of the formations spread around the borders of this estate. Through the shared vision from the hive mind link, he could see everything from afar. Remember, don't kill anyone innocent or the guards. Just incapacitate them and infiltrate quietly. Ordered Khan to his assassins. One by one, all the assassins secretly reached inside the estate and the mages cast a silence barrier so that no one could hear them sneaking inside. Anyone who came close to finding them was either gagged or incapacitated before the guards could be warned. Just in 20 minutes, Khan in his Zeus persona stood inside the master bedroom. An alluring Va seductively dressed foxkin woman with 9 tails was asleep in her round-shaped emperor-sized bed, completely unaware of the intruder who had a red epic rank dagger in his hand. She was one of the business tycoons who colluded in the act of hiring the Red Right Hand to have his employees killed since they couldn't directly touch him. "Wakey, wakey, little foxy," spoke Zeus as he slightly released his aura and frightened the female who suddenly woke up as if she received an electric shock. "You? Who are you? How did you get inside?" "Guards?" asked the foxkin as she saw Zeus standing in front of her. "Shoo! Don't wake up the guards. They're sleeping soundly. They deserve a good nap too," he said and took out a page from his black long coat. "You know what this is, right?" asked Zeus with a devilish smile. "You? Where did you get it?" "It was supposed to be kept a secret," said the foxkin as she shuddered under his vengeful aura. "The Bloodborne Company and its people belong to me. All of them are my possessions," spoke Zeus and increased his aura by twice. He brandished the daggers and rubbed them against each other as he gave a sinister and wrathful look, filled with nothing but pure bloodlust to this beautiful foxkin woman, and spoke. "And I don't like it when someone touches my possessions." Zeus now stood atop a tall watchtower with a black bow in his hands. In front of him was a heavily guarded castle-like estate made full of stones and metallic fencing. It didn't feel like he was here to hunt a rich business tycoon, but a general in his fortress. After the visit to Daenerys, the foxkin, his next target was the brown lionkin named Tywin Landshare. He managed to finish off one of the conspirators and now 6 more remained. Although he could easily wreak havoc in this estate and kill everyone in this place with his legion. But to condemn everyone to the fate of death just because of one person wasn't a wise decision. There were plenty of innocents who lived in this estate since this was a mansion of a normal businessman who wasn't even a master rank fighter. This wasn't a clan of fighters but normal citizens who lived normal lives. Just because of one bad fish, the entire pond shouldn't be declared dirty. 3 more hours. Still 6 people left. "I need to hurry," spoke Zeus and merged inside a shadow using the shadow walk skill. Swoosh! Swish! After him, nearly 100 of assassins followed behind, and the mage subordinates who already surrounded this estate cast isolation and silence barriers on various entry points to let their comrades successfully enter the place without alerting anyone. The hidden traps Va detection formations were already taken care of, so the intruders had no problem entering the place. 10 minutes later, a giant body of a 4-meter-tall lionkin, who had his mouth and limbs tied up, was thrown on a ground full of yellow grass outside of the estate. Zeus successfully kidnapped one of the main culprits and got him to a desolate tree line. He pulled out the gag on Tywin's mouth. "Who are you? Why have you kidnapped me?" asked Tywin as he struggled to get out of the binds. "Don't be surprised. You should have seen it coming even before you conspired to hire killers against the Bloodborne Company," spoke Zeus in his calm tone. The Bloodborne Company. Whoever hired you. I'll pay you double. Just let me." But before he could propose a deal properly, an arrow pierced his right thigh. "Ark! You bastard! Shoot!" Another arrow shot and punctured his other thigh. "You bastard!" shouted Tywin. "Hey, language!" reprimanded Captain AM. "Zeus, I'm short on time. Tell me, why did you lot go this far?" asked Zeus as he released some of his domineering pressure. "You think I'll tell you, bastard?" refuted the lionkin. "Oh, I think you will," said Zeus and took a glimmering blue orb that sized as big as a watermelon. Suddenly, The orb glowed and 3 projections were created above it on different screens. This was exactly like those surveillance artifacts Khan bought and had in all of his shops and offices. In all 3 of these screens were 3 young Lionkins sleeping soundly in bed. One was a little girl while the other 2 were boys in the range of 7 to 8 years old. But not far from them were 2 assassins holding daggers in their hands in each rooms. Let me be frank. I'm gonna kill you for sure. But if you tell me exactly what I want, I promise that I'll let them live. You have my word, said Zeus in a grim yet chivalrous tone. No, please. I'll tell you everything. This isn't simple like you think. Even I was against the idea of hiring that organization. My children. They don't have a mother. If you kill me, they'll become orphans. Pleaded Tywin as soon as he saw the threat on the lives of his children. And so did the employees of my company. They too had children, they too had wives. Some of the killers even killed the entire family, including children via newborn babies. You should have thought about it before you even got mixed into these affairs. Or I guess you didn't think that one day. Someone you saw as weak and defenseless would have a leash on your own fate. Am I right? Asked Zeus. There were no saints on the battlefield. Even the people Khan killed had families and children. And he owned up that fact. Being good or evil was your own choice despite the world via environment around you. Some made decisions to survive while some made their choices based on their morality. Khan knew that he was no saint at this point. His hands were already covered in blood. He wouldn't put a halo of doing it because someone posed a threat to his life or he had to do it in order to survive. The biggest kindness he could offer was not to kill the innocent bystanders at best, or outright kill someone just because they looked at him the wrong way. But if someone belonged to the enemy side, showing mercy would have its consequences. He already saw what happened when he spared their lives because he didn't want to involve innocent people. His own people lost lives because of his error in judgment, and he was the one solely responsible for it. But now, the dead won't come back, and all he could do was at least punish the people behind their deaths. At this moment, Tywin was having a mental breakdown and cried as he pleaded Zeus to spare his life. Just because he was well off in his life, he didn't mind the weak getting killed. But karma found its way back in the form of Zeus. When the morning sun finally arose. Inside a wide meeting hall, a white snakekin who was tied to the chair placed around the round table where the meeting with Khan happened 2 weeks ago, woke up from his slumber. Houdini Warsmike finally opened his eyes as he regained his consciousness after being knocked out by someone during his sleep. Gasp! He gasped as soon as he saw the scene in front of him. On the round table, in front of 6 chairs belonging to some of the members of the council, were 6 heads that belonged to his fellow conspirators. "Eh!" screamed the snakekin. Houdini shuddered in fear, completely out of his wits and with nothing but disbelief in his eyes. Right in front of him was a letter and there were plenty of words written on it. But the words written at the end were what frightened him the most. The words were an open declaration and there were terms stated in the letter. And the final words being, "Do as I say or you're next." 2 days later, inside the Chamber of Commerce Arms Va Craftsmanship Department, a meeting was being held at the time of the afternoon. Just 2 days ago, there were 13 seats available, but now only 7 of them were occupied. And out of the current members of the council available, every single one of them was sweating heavily just with the happenings in the past 2 days. After the incident of Zeus leaving the decapitated heads of their fellow members of the council right on the round table they were sitting. All of them were taken aback and couldn't believe that their fellow business tycoons who were no less rich than them were all killed in a single night. And Houdini, their chosen president Va, the main representative, was tied to the chair and presented with the heads of their comrades. All of them were now fearful for their own future. And on the same day, they learned that the dead members had jointly conspired together and hired the Red Right Hand, one of the top assassin organizations in the entire district. But to their surprise, the entire organization was also wiped out on the same night. And the main culprit behind it all was actually a semi-saint rank fighter. Even in the entire empire, which had more than 4 billion people living it in, there were less than 200 semi-saint rank people, and they had successfully incurred the wrath of one. Even someone of their reputation, wealth, and connections couldn't manage to befriend such a person, but they actually ended up causing his company a lot of damage. The young boy who came 2 weeks ago was the representative of this grand persona, and all they did was try to create more problems for this powerhouse. President Houdini, are you sure we might be spared? Because I think running away seems like a more reasonable approach to me, although all of our businesses and wealth would be gone. Just staying alive matters more to me, spoke a black man depressed in a white and green coat. You think I didn't have that thought? But running away is not a wise choice, because not only this Zeus is a semi-saint archer, he also has 1,000 people under his command like a criminal organization. From the very beginning, we never had a chance to escape, replied Houdini. Tap, tap, tap. The next moment, the main door was opened and the guards escorted 3 new members inside. 2 of them were familiar figures to these members, as they were none other than Omega Va Jugram, who put them all kneeling on the ground. And behind them, entered a man in his mid-50s. This new individual seemed far more regal and imposing than all of them combined. All the members got up from their seats and bowed down in respect to this man clad in Bladva white regal clothes, who appeared like a leader of some rich noble clan. Boom! The next second, however, an immeasurably heavy pressure was released from the domineering man with black hair Va Bear along with the white patches. Instantly, every single one of them was put in the ground from this chaotic aura as the tyrannical voice landed on their ears. Good thing that all of you came at your own discretion. Otherwise, I would have hated to find you myself. A ghastly Va majestic voice came from this person. The members of the council and all the guards couldn't do anything but to have their faces plastered on the floor, their bodies having nothing but goosebumps Va frozen countenance. The reason why all of them were present here for this meeting was because Zeus, the semi-saint rank archer himself, had ordered them to be present to the meeting using that letter left on the round table. And anyone absent will be marked as the next one to die. Hence, they had no choice but to be present here at this moment. Zeus then sat on one end of the round table. Such a comfortable chair. This table also looks rather spacious, I would say, spoke Zeus and chuckled. But to the members who were frozen stiff on the ground, it felt like they now stood in front of the Grim Reaper. Of course, the table would be spacious, because he killed the people who occupied these chairs. Zeus then deactivated his aura. Va spoke. I assume you all know why I'm here, and who actually owns the Bloodborne company. Yes, sir. We apologize for creating trouble for your company. We did not know such a grand persona held the command of that enterprise. Bootlicked a yellow boater. Zeus then sat leisurely spoke. I don't like to beat around the bush. From now on, never even in dreams are any of you to create trouble for my company. I don't care about the market prices and stuff. You all will readjust it. And my nephew, Khan, will have a seat at the council. Although he's not the kind to interfere in these things often. I want you to take care of all the conditions and documents. In return, I won't kill any of you and interfere with your businesses either. But there won't be any form of forgiveness ever again. You will surely join your friends if it comes to that, threatened Zeus in a calm demeanor. Although he could rob them easily again, Va forced some unfair deals like asking for a cut under the name of protection fees. This wasn't a good choice. And these remaining members except Houdini weren't the ones who conspired and hired those killers. Because even a cornered animal fights back. So he didn't aim for another skirmish. So, do you all agree? All the members nodded in unison to this question. What Zeus had implied here is that you're good as long as you don't mess with me. So they had no reason to disagree if it meant them having their heads intact. The aura released from Zeus was something not even the pressure from both Omega Va Jugram could imitate together. So they had no other options but to nod. Good. Then all of you may leave. Except you, Warsmike, spoke Zeus as he gestured all of them to leave the place. Houdini on the other end was shuddering in immense fear, as if he'd soon get a panic attack. Do you know why I haven't killed you already? Asked Zeus in a skeptical tone. No, I don't, spoke Houdini in a jittery voice. The next moment, Zeus again revealed his aura full of bloodlust at the snakekin and commanded. Well then, tell me about them. said Zeus as he sighed before continuing. The real culprits behind all of this. Houdini Warsmike, the president of one of the departments of the Rukon Chamber of Commerce, now stood rooted on the spot as if he had seen a ghost. Vous. What do you mean? He asked the semi-saint archer in front of him. Instead of replying, Zeus took out an intrinsically carved wooden box. The next second, Omega walked in front and took out a silver lighter from his pockets. Zeus took out a cigar no smaller than a Cuban cigar from Earth. Omega then lighted it up and Zeus smoked it leisurely. Don't be so surprised, Warsmike. I knew none of you had the balls to actually go against my company after the previous warning. And before I killed them, I interrogated them all. And every single one of them told me that they didn't want to go to these extreme measures at all. That it was you who forced them to collude in hiring that organization, said Zeus as he reveled in the zesty taste of this expensive cigar. I am sorry, Mr. Zeus. I don't know what you're talking about. I only agreed to this meeting because I wanted to offer my apologies. I will give you any amount of money you want, spoke the snakekin in a scared voice. Oh, has your backer thrown you away after you lived out your usefulness? Asked Zeus. He currently looked like an Italian mafia boss conducting usual business. I understand that you don't want further trouble, only wish to solve these matters before things escalate even more as you no longer have someone to protect you, said Zeus and continued his carefree tone as he released half of his aura and froze the surroundings again. You made a good living, had protection from authorities, and there were courts of law. You want me to spare your life, but you don't ask with respect. You don't offer friendship. You don't even think to call me sir. Spoke Zeus as he returned to his calm demeanor. Houdini was sweating heavily on the other end. He thought offering an exorbitant amount of money may help him worm out his way and continue living his life without losing everything he built over the years. Zeus got up from his chair and looked at the snakekin as if he felt wronged. Warsmike, what have I ever done to make you treat me so disrespectfully? Asked Zeus in his mature and kingly voice as he walked closer to Houdini and placed his hand on the snakekin's shoulder. I understand that someone has been using you as a proxy and pulling the strings behind the curtain. Give him up and work for me from now on. Otherwise, you know very well that people like me do not prefer to have loose ends, proposed Zeus. The next second, however, Houdini dropped on the ground, even more terrified than before. You don't understand, sir. Those people are not someone even you can mess with. The person who ordered me to do all of this is a first-stage saint. I'd rather have you kill me than him, revealed the snakekin. And what if I told you that I have means to get rid of this person? Will you still not talk? Said Zeus. Are you sure? I don't want to die, asked Houdini in a jittery tone. After the recent events, your backer would think that I will kill you anyway. But if you give up his name, you at least have a chance to stay alive, replied Zeus. Houdini nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. This was one of the reasons why he had no choice but to attend the meeting. For reasons unknown, his backer suddenly absconded and gave up on him after Zeus killed the other members. Houdini knew that there was no way for him to get away at this point. He could always run away, but then will have to look over his shoulder even in his sleep for the rest of his life. But here, he could at least try to make amends. I will tell you everything, but you have to promise me that neither you nor any of your allies will kill me, he said and took 3 round-shaped metallic artifacts out of his space ring. If you do, I will tell you everything without holding back. Or you might as well kill me already, spoke the snakekin as he took a deathly gamble for his life. What is this? Asked Zeus. A blood oath token. It is used to make extremely important contracts. If either side breaks the contract, they will die in 10 hours. Revealed the snakekin. Fine. Have it your way, quickly agreed Zeus. After the blood oath was commenced between Khan, Omega, Jugram Houdini, as they all pierced their thumbs on the needle present at the center of the artifact. Houdini then spilled out all the beans. He was also surprised how quickly Zeus his underlings very quickly agreed to the demands than hurting him or torturing him. He felt like they too were very desperate to get rid of the person who got him mixed in these matters in the first place. And if he didn't comply with Zeus, he'd die anyway, so betraying his backer seemed more logical than dying as collateral damage. When the midnight moon shone brightly in the sky over Rathna, there was a large mansion that was situated near a waterfall and completely isolated from the normal populace. One would have to travel very deep in the dense and forested area situated at border of the Rukon district to reach this place. At this very moment, this entire mansion was being surrounded from nearly 5 kilometers by over 10,000 soldiers dressed in white and golden attires. Their battalions had taken for sides, and even the flying battleships were hovering over this force. There were thousands of warriors, mages, assassins, and archers. And among these soldiers, there were nearly 100 Grandmaster rank people. The most common trait of these soldiers was their white hair, long ears, and their glimmering red eyes. The force was something Khan had seen and even fought against before. But now, they were his allies in a sense. The force these people belonged to was none other than the Vanderijk clan. Inside a grand mansion situated at quiet and peaceful forested area, stood an elderly vampire. This elderly and skinny vampire, clad in blue and yellow mage robes, was now practicing magic in an open and wide hall where the floor had plenty of mana ores placed at different ends, and there were dozens of oval, pentagram, rectangular-shaped magical formations floating in the air as the mage was completely immersed in the study of magical formations. But the next second, a loud and ground-shaking voice filled the entire 5-kilometer forested area where the man was situated. Karabaros Mor Vanderijk, we have received the clan's orders from the ancestor Va, the clan leader. You are to be imprisoned and brought back safely to the clan headquarters. We are also allowed to use extreme measures should you refuse. Please come peacefully. A shrill and high-pitched announcement was made from a flying warship hovering 100 meters above in the air. These ships looked like spacecraft and had 4 turbines and an outlet at the bottom that was expelling hot and intense heat while maintaining the entire body of the ship. Even 100 loudspeakers from Earth would not be able to cover this distance from 5 kilometers away. The use of magical formations to amplify the sound was done so effectively that it didn't adversely affect the soldiers below the warship. The warship itself was a kilometer long, 300 meters wide, and 100 meters in height. Anyone would think that this ship equipped with magic cannons and hundreds of artillery guns would be enough to kill anyone, let it be a semi-saint rank fighter or a bona fide saint. But in reality, this wasn't the only warship. There were 7 more, 2 on each side including this one, along with the 10,000 soldiers using different weapons, belonging to different jobs and having different areas of expertise. And all of them had come together just to catch one person. A first-stage saint-rank magician. The mage inside the mansion was taken aback by this sudden announcement. Impossible! Have they found out? Asked the bald vampire mage to himself. The next second, he cast 4 different archaic magical formations in the air, each directed in a different direction. For 20-meter-tall magic formations appeared in the air above these 4 battalions that managed to encircle this vampire without alerting him. These were the exact replica of the ones cast by the mage, just much taller va wider. But they appeared far taller and wider. What's the meaning of this? Do you not know who I am? Is that a way to talk with your clan's elders? Asked the mage. Next, an authoritative tone responded to this voice. As per the clan's orders, you are no longer an elder of the clan and neither are you a member. As decreed by the ancestor Va, the Elder Council, you've been branded as the traitor to the clan. Come with us without resistance. Replied the commander of the warships. I see. Then I will give you a choice as well. I can feel that you've sealed the space in this area and no teleportation scroll would work anymore. But if you let me go, I will not kill any of you, in the end. You're all my kin, said the mage in a ghastly tone through these magic formations hovering in the air. His threat had a calm before the storm sense of feeling. Even the thousands of soldiers listening from 5 kilometers away felt a sense of danger just from his words. We are ordered to bring you in. Please cooperate. This is your final warning, replied the commander. Ha ha ha. All of you must be delusional if you think this is enough. You leave me no choice. I shall remember your sacrifice," said the mage sarcastically. "All battalions, attack!" ordered the commander, and the charged cannons that were awaiting the orders shot enormous magic beams full of destructive mana. All of them aimed in the direction of the Grand Mansion. Boom! Boom! One after another, thunderous and ground-shattering noises filled the 5-kilometer vicinity, as if an atom bomb landed and obliterated everything that came in its way, sending tremors to the nearby ground out of this encircled area. When the mushroom-shaped, ginormous cloud of dust finally faded, the once noticeable Grand Mansion was nowhere to be seen. Not even a small broken pillar of the property was left. A 100-meter-long hole deep in the ground could be seen from the magic binoculars placed at these warships. The commander who gave the order to nuke the mage heaved a sigh of relief as he couldn't see the target. "Ha! Is that it?" Suddenly, a grim voice befell on the ears of everyone present, and in the sky, a figure of a vampire flying was finally revealed to these people in commands of these warships flying in the air. In the mage's hands was a staff working as a source to channel the barrier. But the force that now covered the mage and acted as protection was something completely different than mana. "Impossible! How can he be this strong? He should have died," spoke one of the vampires who were in charge of a warship. The same reaction came from the other people in charge of the 7 warships. This wasn't Earth, where an explosion of this caliber was enough to kill thousands of people. The entire setting of this world was different, and one thing was very clear: magic ruled over everything. Let it be to become an insanely strong being or destroy anything that stood in your way. You needed magic to do it all. He's using world energy. But wasn't he considered to be someone mediocre when it comes to channeling the world energy? Asked the commander as he communicated with the battalion leaders through a communication artifact. "I already gave you all a chance. But seems like your brains have rotted just like our ancestor Va, the clan leader," shouted the vampire mage and waved his epic rank staff. Swoom! Swoom! One by one, nearly 20 magic formations appeared in front of the battalion while the vampire mage was still hovering in the same place as before. His effective range to cast spells was far beyond something that even a semi-saint rank mage could do. Even Solomon had the effective range to cast and attack with spells at 1 kilometer at best, but this vampire mage was on a completely different level. "Charge the cannons, everyone attack!" commanded the vampire in charge over thousands of long-range artillery magic guns started shooting at the mage. All the 8 warships were enough to decimate an army of 10,000 soldiers easily. "Amateurs," said the bald vampire, and 10 layers of magical barriers came into existence. On the other hand, the magic formations cast by this mage were now glimmering brightly and released a deathly and heavy pressure in the surrounding. All these formations quickly released different elemental attacks, varying from lightning to fire. Boom! Crackle! Splurge! The long and thick lightning strikes, big and round water orbs, waves of fire and blades of compressed wind then attacked the fronts of these battalions stationed in the 4 directions. Everywhere these tremendously strong attacks landed, not only they broke through the protection barriers cast over the foot soldiers, cavalries full of monster steeds. It also bombarded the formations with these elemental attacks and killed more than 300 soldiers with each hit. For someone from Earth, it would appear as if the gods were punishing their creations in the form of natural disasters or a calamity. But in Vantria, this was just a single first-stage saint-rank magician taking an offensive mode. One by one, dozens of these attacks landed and killed over 1,000 soldiers in a matter of a couple of minutes. Before the magic cannons could even charge, the vampire mage finished chanting his incantation and 4 more pentagram-shaped magic formations came into existence just a kilometer away from in directions aimed towards the soldiers. Explode! Boom! Dang! Pure beams of destructive world energy coalesced and struck like lightning and obliterated the warships that looked near indestructible one by one. Just in the first wave. 3 out of the 8 warships, including hundreds of operators in each of them, were obliterated into nothingness. Not even a trace of their bones or ashes was left to see. Pure destructive. Only pure destruction filled this forest, as if a heavenly tribulation had struck and judged everything in existence. Hundreds of deep crevices filled the ground below as the burnt and thoroughly decimated ground was left asunder. It hadn't even been 5 minutes, but more than 3,000 soldiers of the vampire clan were massacred by one of their own elders who had been serving the clan for over 200 years. Wails and screams of agony filled the battlefield as only charred and mangled flesh filled the surroundings with a gory sight of war and bloodshed. "Now go and repent, coming in your next lives," shouted the mage in his stern voice. This time 8 more pentagrams, even bigger than the previous times, came into existence and charged themselves to land another volley of magical attacks on the battalions. "Run! We're done for!" shouted the soldiers in fear. Boom! Boom! One by one, all these attacks charged at the targets and loud, ground-shaking noise filled the entire forest. But as soon as the clouds of dust faded, everyone, including the Saint Rank mage, was baffled. Although the attacks indeed land in the direction of targets, they never truly connected the grounds. Rather, something came in between and saved thousands of these soldiers. As the sight finally cleared, everyone was awestruck after looking at the ginormous constructs that acted as a barrier and saved their lives at the last second. 12 red ginormous swords, each one of a height more than 100 meters, acting like an impenetrable wall. There were 3 of these godly swords in front of the battalions on the 4 sides, so close to each other that large-scale destructive spell could go past them. And suddenly, a kingly and domineering voice filled the entire forested area of 6 kilometers in length. "Sorry, I am late. The faction council meeting was hard to escape from," spoke a majestic-looking swordsman clad in a white and golden epic rank armor set. His waist-length silver hair fluttered in the air, and his mature and calm demeanor could be felt by every living being who saw him. The next moment, more than 5,000 soldiers shouted in unison with an ear-deafening chant, welcoming the arrival of this kingly persona. "All hail the clan leader!" Author, please don't read this. Posting some parts again here because the re-edited word count can't be lower than 100 words of the original word count. Don't read. It's just repeated words. But as soon as the clouds of dust faded, everyone, including the Saint Rank mage, was baffled. Although the attacks indeed land in the direction of targets, they never truly connected the grounds. Rather, something came in between and saved thousands of these soldiers. As the sight finally cleared, everyone was awestruck after looking at the ginormous constructs that acted as a barrier and saved their lives at the last second. 12 red ginormous swords, each one of a height more than 100 meters, acting like an impenetrable wall. There were 3 of these godly swords in front of the battalions on the 4 sides, so close to each other that large-scale destructive spell could go past them. And suddenly, a kingly and domineering voice filled the entire forested area of 6 kilometers in length. "Sorry, I am late. The faction council meeting was hard to escape from," spoke a majestic-looking swordsman clad in a white and golden epic rank armor set. His waist-length silver hair fluttered in the air, and his mature and calm demeanor could be felt by every living being who saw him. The next moment, more than 5,000 soldiers shouted in unison with an ear-deafening noise, welcoming the arrival of this kingly persona. "All hail the clan leader!" The loud cheers of joy va worship filled the battlefield as soon as this vampire lord showed up. Although over 3,000 of the soldiers had died just from a single wave of attacks from this first-stage Saint Rank magician, the sudden last-moment shield of swords made by the clan leader saved the lives of the remaining 7,000 soldiers. Even 8 warships that could kill 30,000 enemies on their own failed to kill va defend against this one mage. If not for their leader showing up in nick of time, many more would have died, even more brutally at that. To think that you of all people were colluding with our enemies and betrayed the clan. I'm truly disappointed in you, Sir Caraberos. You were there when all the founding clans came together and fought against the Imperial Army. You yourself led thousands of soldiers in that war. But now, spoke Ismatrazel, who was flying 200 meters above the ground. You've become the very thing you swore to destroy, spoke the vampire clan leader, shaking his head in disappointment. although they were located approximately 4 kilometers away from each other. Not only the mage but every single person present in the 10 kilometers radius could clearly hear his domineering voice. The 4th stage Saint rank swordsman was on a completely different league than the former. Even his calmly spoken words had a completely different intensity to them. The simple words that were amplified using the world energy had an indescribable force va authority that could not be described. What do you know? You and your father ruled over the clan for 2 centuries now. Your rule will only ruin us, and we vampires will grow weaker if you keep prohibiting us to kill humans and others for blood. We must use these livestocks as they were meant to be. We are natural predators va rulers. We're meant to hunt va rule like kings, declared Caraberos, the elderly vampire mage, as if a fanatic was giving their speech full of self-proclaimed doctrine. So that was it? Is that your reason to betray the clan by selling off my son, one of the candidates for the clan leader's position, to our enemies? What would you even achieve by betraying your own to those who only want our demise? Asked Ismatrazil. You should know that our entire species was once prosecuted and hunted in this very empire because many of our predecessors killed indiscriminately, and as a result, we were boycotted by the entire empire 400 years ago. From being the public enemy to now becoming the leader of one of the strongest factions of the entire empire. Do you know how hard it was for our ancestors to keep our species alive? If not for my father, our clan would have regressed to bottom of the power structure after the loss we suffered a century ago. And now we already have a system where we buy fresh human blood and everyone gets their fill for the month. Unlike the vampires of the other empires, we're not bloodthirsty monsters. Elaborated the vampire clan leader. Ha! Spoken just like your father. I've spent 2 centuries serving the clan and I know for sure. We've become far weaker compared to our predecessors. And you father and son duo have a big part in it. Scoffed off the old mage. Sir Caraberos. As my senior and someone who served the clan for this long, I ask you to come with me peacefully. Sir Belmont, your elder brother, was also my teacher before he fell in the Great War. So I ask you to surrender, because if I am forced to use even the slightest of my strength, given the difference between our levels, I can't guarantee that you will survive, said the vampire lord. Author. Reference art for Ismatrazil Moore Vandereyck, the vampire clan leader, given in chapter comments. Check it out. Only now did the thousands of soldiers understand that why was their mighty and absolute leader was talking with the fallen elder than just directly forcing him to concede. The orders from the faction council were to apprehend this elder, and the vampire lord wasn't afraid of not having enough strength, but rather being too strong that he might accidentally kill the elderly mage. If you think I will surrender without a fight, then you're gravely mistaken, spoke the old mage and waved his staff. 5 different artifacts suddenly appeared in front of the mage, and the source of mana started channeling to the staff that was the medium of casting the devastating spells and elemental attacks. Just from the heavy pressure exerted by these spells alone, it could be felt that all strength va intensity behind these attacks was being amplified by 5 to 6 times. The normal soldiers and the operators who stood on the ground and in the remaining warships were completely rooted on the spot despite being 5 kilometers away from the source. To them, it didn't feel like some saints were fighting. Rather, it felt like some gods were now getting ready for a fistfight. The majority of the soldiers finally understood why saint rank fighters were prohibited from fighting in a populated area as agreed by all the factions in the empire under a pact made over 100 years ago after the Great War. Just the normal attacks from these beings were enough to kill thousands of soldiers and citizens. The amount of destruction these people could cause was completely unfathomable. One by one, dozens of defensive barriers came into existence and completely encapsulated 2-kilometer radius from where the elder mage floated in the air. At the same time, all those archaic and tall magic formations started flying in a single direction. In the direction of the clan leader, who still flew in the air with a carefree attitude. One by one, these formations queued up and aimed at the clan leader as the vampire mage was citing magic spells and stacking all these different elemental spells. The most destructive spells started coalescing with each other and formed a harmony. The frozen soldiers in the ground were completely awestruck. Caraberos was doing something that they only heard in myths. He was fusing different elements together, including the ones that were considered to be incompatible with each other. "So this is the extent of world energy," spoke a young human male who stood amongst a group that was watching this battlefield on projection artifacts and was currently in a warship 15 kilometers away from the battlefield. When the elemental attacks finally fused, a shrill cry filled the entire battlefield as the combined spell of these elements was finally ready to attack clan leader. "Die!" shouted Kerberos as he shot the combined attack, and a large and bright red beam full of world energy was charged in the direction of the vampire lord. Boom! An ear-deafening explosion that formed a mushroom-shaped cloud, as if a nuclear bomb exploded in this battlefield, resounded in the 10 kilometers area was heard. The soldier battalions far away felt the ground shattering, and thousands of them fell on the ground from the tremors alone. Even the flying warships lost their balance from the shockwaves and sonic booms that were nothing but just the aftereffect of the explosion. As for the main site, half of the forested area was now completely wiped out of existence, and there were no trees or rocks. And the deep hole that a half a kilometer in height was formed. If the previous attacks from the warships were completely unmatched, then this combined attack by the mage proved to be 5 times more effective than before. Imbecile! Did he really think that I didn't have enough cards in my inventory? Spoke the mage as he reveled in his victory, as there wasn't even a trace of sand left where his spell landed. The thousands of soldiers gasped in disbelief, many unable to process that their almighty clan leader was simply obliterated into nothingness. As the cloud of explosion finally started fading after 3 minutes, a tyrannical voice filled the 10 kilometers of the surroundings and gave shivers to everyone present in the vicinity. "Are you done playing?" asked a majestic and kingly persona whose face was finally revealed to the onlookers. The same place where the heaven-shaking explosion happened. A tall and mature vampire hovered in the air, simply using his palm that stopped the devastating magic spell. Forget killing the vampire lord. The combined spell that incinerated everything in the 10 kilometers vicinity hadn't even scratched his palm, as the clan leader of the Vanderite clan stood like Neo stopping the bullets in the air, just like the Matrix movie. Thousands of soldiers and the vampire mage were left awestruck and completely baffled as soon as the vampire lord's voice confirmed that the 4th stage Saint rank swordsman was still alive and kicking, completely unfazed by the spell made with world energy that was enough to kill 50,000 people in a single shot. "How? It's impossible. That spell was more than enough to kill a 5th stage saint," exclaimed the elderly mage in disbelief, unable to accept the harsh reality. "Oh, is that what you think happens when you rise in ranks as a saint, Sir Kerberos? Let me enlighten you then. By logic, I should be 3 times stronger than you given the gap in our ranks. But in reality," said the vampire lord as he stopped in his words before continuing in a domineering and ghastly voice, "I am 15 times stronger than you." Speechless. Kerberos, the vampire mage, was left speechless after hearing this new revelation, because he hadn't risen in rankings after reaching the 1st stage saint rank. He had no idea what happens afterward. The other people from the top brass of their clan hadn't revealed this spike in strength after crossing the new stages, as if it was some sort of taboo. Even his biggest card, the 5 epic rank enhancement artifacts, give him only 5 times the boost in his spell's range and attack damage. But even with that, he hadn't even managed to scratch the clan leader. If someone thought the vampire mage was akin to some big and invincible powerhouse, the 4th stage saint rank clan leader was even 15 times stronger than him. Even the soldiers of the Vanderite clan who hadn't seen their clan leader fight at his best were shocked and bewildered. "I don't believe it. If it was true, why haven't I heard of it before?" asked Kerberos. "Why would any saint reveal their cards to the enemy or even an ally? Just like you, I have my trump cards as well," replied the vampire lord. This response was heard only by the bald mage and nobody else, who floated in the air 10 kilometers away, showing the immense control of the vampire lord over world energy. Ismatrazel then gestured with both of his hands and made a gesture of calling something towards him. On the other ends of the forested area were the battalions that had lured hundreds of soldiers in each of them just from the waves of magical spells by the vampire mage felt their blood boiling. And right in front of their eyes, The blood from their fallen comrades that lost their lives not too long ago started leaving their mangled bodies and flew in the air, towards the direction of their clan leader at an extremely fast speed. In just 20 seconds, a gigantic orb of red blood, as big as a house, was created in the air after all of the blood of the fallen vampires was collected at a single place. This orb was only 2 kilometers away from the mage, who was still encapsulated and protected by the impenetrable barriers that previously faced the head-on attacks from the 8 warships and barely cracked. "The blood of our fallen shall be your chains," spoke the clan leader and made a moving gesture of his right hand. Two. Hundreds of chains and swords made with pure blood suddenly charged out of this orb and attacked the protection barriers and started drilling into the barriers one by one. And unlike the previous explosive beams attacked from the magic cannons, these swords and chains were created with world energy that could easily suppress anything made with mana. Crack, crack, crack. Hundreds and then thousands of cracks appeared on these ginormous barriers that filled the long space. And just in 3 seconds, the first layer was thoroughly destroyed and the sword flew and charged at the inner layers. "No!" shouted the vampire mage as after the first layer got destroyed, one of his enhancement artifacts exploded. "Arr!" wailed the elderly mage as his body suddenly caved in and he spat out blood. This was clearly the backlash of his spell and the artifact which he used as conduit getting destroyed. And he suffered from the mana he was using being obliterated. Boom! Crack! Boom! In the next dozen seconds, all the barriers were thoroughly cracked open while the mage threw up a mouthful of blood from the backlash. His body lost its balance and he fell towards the ground. Stab! 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 Just as his body was about to touch the ground, multiple chains made from the blood of the deceased soldiers stabbed his arms and legs and tied his body. A grand figure of the Ismatrazel Mor Vandereyck, the clan leader, quickly appeared in front of the mage who was left defenseless. The vampire lord made a gesture of moving his forefinger in the air. "Arr!" grunted the old mage as somehow. His right arm that was still holding the epic rank mage staff was cut off in just a second. "You shall face the judgment from the Elders' Council and tell my great father about the other traitor hidden in the clan," said Ismatrazel and placed sealing artifacts on the mage that completely cut off his connection to mana and world energy. "You think I'll talk? In your dreams, brat," spoke the old mage. "Oh, you definitely will," replied the clan leader. And more chains encircled the mage's body. The clan leader of this vampire clan had easily subdued this mage who seemed like an existence out of the world just by waving his hand twice. Swish! Swish! A warship that wasn't previously present in the 10-kilometer surroundings suddenly flew in their direction and landed on the nearest ground. A group of 10 people walked out of the exit of this 100 meters tall and enormous warship. In this group was a hooded figure under a black cloak. But the person leading this group was known to everyone here. It was Sale Mor Vandereyck, the clan heir, and also one of the candidates for the position of the clan leader in the future. He stood in front of this elderly mage and asked with curiosity, "Why, Sir Caraberos? Why would you collude with our enemies and plan to kill me? You once taught me how to control magic in my beginning years of training. So why do you resent me?" "Ha! Ha ha! It's because you're simply not worthy, kid. Look at you. You're not even a peak Grandmaster mage yet. Compared to your sister, you're nothing but a failure. And to make matters worse, you share the same ideology as your father and your grandfather. If the clan leader's position falls in your hands, I see a bleak future for our clans. And that's why I didn't care if it meant giving you up," said Caraberos. To this, Sale's countenance froze and immense wrath appeared in his eyes as he clenched his fists. Although the words came from a traitor, Sale knew what this elderly mage was indeed the truth. He was simply lacking compared to his stepsister and had always been foreshadowed by her glory and talent. But there was nothing he could say to rebuke this vampire mage. "Tell me, how did you even find out?" asked the mage. To this question, Ismatrazel pointed his finger towards the hooded figure who stood behind Sale and spoke. "It's simple, because you took the bait." The figure under the black cloak then took off the hood and finally revealed the face. You, spoke the old vampire in disbelief. The person that revealed himself was someone he clearly knew of but hadn't expected to see here. Nice to meet you, my dear well-wisher, spoke the man. This young, handsome, and muscular figure was none other than Khan. The vampire mage now stared at the young human who stood in front of him with contempt. So you're my well-wisher, spoke Khan as he gave a gentle smile. You human vermin. You have no idea how many people you've enraged by saving this brat's life and thwarting our plans. Start counting your remaining days, declared the old mage. Well, not the first time I've had such a rude greeting. But unlike you, I come bearing gifts, said Khan coyly, and suddenly, he threw a round white object in front of the now tied-up mage. This round object was a head that belonged to someone this mage had used as a chess piece for targeting Khan Va his company, since they couldn't openly attack him without raising the suspicion of the pureblood faction. It was the Snakekin Houdini Warsmike. The Blood Oath token applied only on him, Omega, and Jugram. But it didn't work on Cyril Va Armin, who hadn't taken part in the ritual. So Khan had Cyril do the work and brought the Snakekin's head as a parting gift. Khan chose to kill the Snakekin, who easily switched sides under small pressure. Because at the end of the day, a snake may shed its skin, but it's still a snake. Your mistake was to think that I will not see through the fact of you using him as a proxy and targeting me from behind the scene. But instead of scaring or torturing him, I made him think that we were on the same side. And believe me, he was very keen on selling you out when I said that I have connections and means to kill you. You left a loose end and thought that I would do the job for you. And now that you've been caught, so will be the rest, said Khan. He already had his suspicions when the member of the council, including the Snakekin president, hired an entire assassination organization just to hurt him and his people. As if they no longer had any fear that Khan would come knocking on their doors or kill them in their sleep. There were only two logical reasons for it, as far as he could think. 1. They received backing from someone who could easily kill Khan's peak Grandmaster subordinates. 2. The backer was so powerful that the council members were more afraid of angering them instead of Khan. And there wasn't anyone of that caliber whom Khan had come in contact with or made an enemy of. So the only possible suspects he had were the enemies that he made by saving Sale's life that day. But as per Sale's words during the secret meeting they had, the demi-human faction wouldn't benefit from targeting him in any way. And first of all, they didn't even know anything about his part in all of this. Since it was obvious that these traitors couldn't kill Sale themselves, they joined hands with the enemy faction and both sides would profit in some way. Only the top clan members of the Vanderite clan were informed about his doings. So whoever it was one of the elders. And from the words of this mage, it was also clear that the group of traitors believed in the supremacy of their own faction Va species and wanted to rule over others or simply massacre them like true extremists and fanatics. They wanted to kill Khan out of their ego as he ruined their future plans and even exposed Vivian, Sale's stepsister, and one who was favored by these people for the position of the next clan leader. It appeared as if the vampire swordsman girl was also one of such extremists and why they wanted her to become the next leader. So after Khan found out about the exact culprit hidden in the shadows, he informed Sale through the Jade Medallion. But even before all of this, as if having foreboding of the future, he asked Sale to make a contact with the faction council and propose this idea even before the killings happened. His gut feeling had proved useful and the faction council had reached a consensus. Just catching one guy was enough for them to fork out the names of the others. Not only from the Vanderite clan but also the traitors hidden in other clans of the Pureblood faction. Now, the traitors didn't even know that one of them was already in custody and soon they would be too. Khan planned for this big part and acted as bait because he couldn't afford to fight these people on his own and he simply didn't know exactly who was pulling the strings. And now, all of their work came to fruition. You did good work, Khan. We are in your debt, said Ismatrazel as he nodded in approval. I've won. But at what cost? Said Khan in a solemn voice with his head dropped down. More than 100 innocent people died because their target was me. And since they couldn't afford being caught, they killed others to get to me, he said with an ashen expression. At this, Ismatrazel walked towards Khan and placed his right palm on Khan's left shoulder. Listen, kid. whenever there's a war, the first victims are the innocents who had nothing to do with it in the first place. That is the harsh truth. A true leader must make sure that even if they're not present, their people are safe and protected. This is where you failed, said the vampire lord. And whether you lead by setting an example or through fear, you should never be affected by the death of your comrades. Over 2,000 of my soldiers died because other saints couldn't come here on time. But do you see me or anyone else crying? Remember, an emotional leader is a weak leader, and weak leaders don't win a war, spoke the clan leader. But you knew it would come to it. That's why you came to my company's grand opening, to rub it in their face and incite them to target me. You planned to use me as bait on the very day I arrived at your clan headquarters and proposed the business deal. I was a chess piece in your game before I even knew it. Am I right, Lord Clan Leader? Asked Khan, his countenance filled with slight anger. Ismatrazil was slightly taken aback, but then nodded in response. There was no guilt on his face, rather he looked impressed by Khan's intelligence. To take down your enemies, you also need to create opportunities in order to trap them. After my son told me about you, I knew that someday you would be targeted by the impatient or the egotistical ones. And it happened just as I planned, replied the vampire lord in his domineering tone. Khan was just reminded that he wasn't the only one with foresight. Just now, Ismatrazil proved why he was the clan leader of this vampire clan, which also represented an entire faction of millions. Not only because he was strong, but he also planned 10 steps ahead with his cunningness. All Khan could do was swallow down this fact. Although he greatly benefited from the support of the Vanderite clan, let it be setting a big business, having a connection with big shots and influential people, even gaining popularity through their means, but it also came with a price paid with blood of the innocents. I can't bring back your dead, but I can at least offer a bigger compensation given how greatly you helped us excel in finding traitors within our ranks, spoke the vampire lord. What will happen to him va the others? Asked Khan out of curiosity. You'll know soon, spoke the vampire lord and continued in a domineering tone. Not just you, but the entire Rocco's empire. The next day, Khan was sitting in his office. Yesterday's events left a deep impression on him. Because yesterday, his entire outlook on power scaling was changed again. Because after watching Kerberos va Ismatrazil fight, the only thing he felt was like watching some gods fight against each other. Just the first stage Saint-rank magician was someone who could destroy an army of 10,000 by simply moving his hands and a few spells. Even for a semi-saint rank fighter like him who was only a threshold below that realm, it was far beyond his capabilities. Previously, Khan thought that a saint rank fighter would be at least 3 to 4 times stronger than him. Even his survival instinct blessing, which covered the largest area compared to any other of his abilities, currently had the range of only 1 kilometer effectiveness radius. But just the normal spells from the vampire mage were enough to kill everything in 5-kilometer radius, and the strength of the protection barriers alone was something those magic cannons that could obliterate everything in the same distance weren't even able to scratch them. Even Khan with all of his skills would be reduced to dust if hit by such attacks, but the first stage saint like Kerberos wasn't even fazed in the slightest. I need to study and comprehend this world energy, said Khan to himself. Because the biggest game changer was the use of world energy. All the spells and barriers weren't made from mana but world energy instead. Only the elemental attacks had the mana infused in them, while the world energy was the main force driving them. Compared to a saint rank who could use world energy, Khan was like a toddler who hadn't even learned how to walk. Because his current comprehension and mastery over the world energy were non-existent. Although ability absorption divine ability helped him absorb some world energy from the attacks of the vampire lord during the duel when they came to Rathna, it wasn't even able to absorb 1% of world energy. At best, Khan could only feel its existence. System, tell me the exact reasons why I need to be level 208 a saint rank entity's core? Asked Khan to the dormant system. The host must become physically strong and capable of withstanding the flow of world energy in the body, and a first-stage Saint Rank's core is used as a source of the world energy to initiate the breakthrough to this new rank. With each increasing stage, the requirements will carry through and the host may rise in ranks. replied the system in its lifeless and robotic voice. And what about my proficiency in using world energy? How does that affect me in the long term? He asked. Every 10% of proficiency in using the world energy will allow the host with a 100% increase in strength and force behind attacks and spells made using the world energy. But the world energy can't be just accumulated by absorbing from an external source. The host must study and comprehend it to increase the usage capacity and effectiveness. Wait, what? Doesn't that mean I will be twice stronger compared to other saints even if my comprehension is at 10%? Asked Khan in surprise. No. The host will only have twice the effectiveness based on the mastery. If the opponent has 20% mastery over the world energy, the host will be able to fight them equally. But the more difference in mastery, the more difference in overall strength. The host is advised to study and raise his comprehension of world energy. The ability Absorption Divine Ability can provide aid to the host in absorbing it at a much faster pace compared to other living beings. The host is advised to find more sources containing it. I see. So I only have an advantage over someone on the same level as me and on the same efficiency in using world energy. But I'm still weaker compared to others. Well, I need to at least cross the semi-saint rank first. Forget world energy. I still haven't learned enough about mana, magic spells, formations, elemental attributes. And there's also the study of space magic Va dimensional law. I need to learn blacksmithing Va alchemy to upgrade the Dracos armor in the future and have enough knowledge in alchemy to save my own life in crucial conditions. And I'm only good at using swords Va daggers even now. There are still tons of weapons and combat techniques I need to learn and master. Although I can always acquire skills by killing others' entities, the real knowledge Va experience only comes from studying and practicing. At this rate, I will stay far weaker and left behind compared to the other 12. I don't want to die if any of them ever meet me or find out my identity, reprimanded Khan to himself and pulled his hair in frustration. And then there's these bastards from the noble clans and factions. I always won't come out alive like this time if even a first-stage saint tries to kill me. And that bastard Ismatrazil is even a bigger threat. He's nearly 75 times stronger than me. On top of that, he's not even the strongest person in this empire. Spoke Khan as his aura left his body because of the mental pressure taking the best of him. Yesterday alone, he was forced to realize that at best, he could be a big shot in only a small street. Even the weakest of the saint rank fighters could easily crush his head under their feet. Although he had managed to hide his awed and gobsmacked expression after watching both the godly saints fight yesterday, he was still not over how their strength varied from worlds apart. Even the vampire mage who could easily erase Khan to nothingness hadn't even put a scratch on the vampire lord. The strength of these saints was far beyond his understanding. It was like a different realm of existence in itself. As soon as I'm done with settling this business,
I will start learning magic và space law.
If I keep being ignorant va negligent, I won't even survive a year in this world. In the following week, a sudden big announcement shook the entire Rocco's empire. Let it be a small city or a big and fully developed civilization in terms of technology or living standards of citizens. Many bustling streets and markets had this news announced via loudspeakers and projection artifacts that this evening will be a grand execution ceremony in the Pureblood faction. And it will be publicly broadcasted throughout the empire using a grid of broadcasting networks and artifacts from city to city. And the ones to be executed were not some enemies but the traitors within the faction. As soon as this news was spread all over the empire, it shook the native citizens and even the powers belonging to the opposition faction such as the demi-human faction va neutral faction. The Pureblood faction consisted of 300+ clans. Each one of them was strong enough to easily rule over their respective cities, and even the strongest clans from Flavit City could not even come close to being mentioned in the same sentence. And suddenly, all of them decided to hold off an execution ceremony for some reason. The normal citizens of the empire that varied from different species, races and life standards only knew of such big clans and names. But their lives didn't revolve around the inside happenings of these superpowers. Any ruler was acceptable as long as no harm came to their normal lives and their rights were protected. So people had only superficial information about these factions. Just like Khan when he lived inside Flavit City, the majority didn't even know or care about who were the leaders of these factions. Only the people who played the game of power struggle in their sleep and wanted to hold power had the most information and interests in these factions, as they too belonged to a particular side. And suddenly, these factions openly brought these matters to the public. And this wasn't about just one clan, but all of them. When Khan heard this news, he too was taken aback. He quickly took out the jade medallion, contacted Sale. "What the hell happened? Did I miss something? Why is there suddenly such a big commotion?" asked Khan to the vampire heir. "Oh, I thought you knew. Let me explain," said Sale and took a deep breath audible through the transmission artifact. "Do you know that the day I was attacked, the same happened to the majority of the clans in our faction? Over 130 clan heirs, having the qualifications and promise to become their clan's next leaders, were killed in the same week as me getting attacked. Some died in their homes while others died at the hands of said enemies belonging to opposite factions. In many cases, the heirs went missing and were presumed dead. I wasn't the only one, but the whole faction's future generation was targeted. And after you helped us track one of the traitors, we finally had a thread to track the main culprits. In the past week, using Caraberos, who was one of the people in command, we've successfully caught thousands of people in our clan, and through them, we caught and imprisoned more than 20,000 traitors who made deals with the enemy just because they were either discontent with the rulers of the clans or wanted shift in power. Not only did we find their nest, but we found everyone who was connected and shared their motives in all the respective clans. What's happening now is nothing but a grand purge," said Sale merrily, after telling Khan about the inner happenings and how the whole faction was been cleansed of the worms. Sale also revealed how their forces caught the people and killers involved from the demi-human faction via hired professionals. That there was a war happening in the shadows over the past week and thousands of people were killed. But instead of feeling safe and secure, Khan was pissed off. Damn, I'm so screwed. Now everyone is gonna come after me one way or another," shouted Khan angrily and flipped the table. No way could he have foreseen that it wasn't just the traitors from the Vanderite clan, but also the ones spread in the whole faction itself. He thought that the vampire mage was just one of the people who wanted Sale out of the equation, and after he was caught, Khan would have room to breathe and won't have to look over his shoulder again. But what he thought was but a spark actually turned into a wildfire. And if his part in this was revealed outside of the Vanderite clan, he would be a public enemy number one for the demi-human faction and even the remaining traitors who were still not found or imprisoned. A little bird revealing the word of his part in the play, and he would be done for real. This was no different than a looming death. Khan was now dragged into a grand-scale war. More than what he bargained for. He now instantly regretted saving Sale that day, because the outcome that resulted from his involvement far outweighed what he received in return. Now all he could do was pray to God of Darkness to come out alive of his current predicament despite being an atheist in his previous life. "Shit! I'm not getting mixed up in these factions and their wars ever again," exclaimed Khan, even though it was already too late for him. "I hope that, after this whole execution thing is done in the evening, I can find a way out or at least get myself a protective shield. I can't put anyone's life at risk again," said Khan. At this moment, he had no idea how this outcome that he couldn't predict before the announcement would affect him in the long run. Khan then took deep breaths and tried to calm his mind. His countenance then turned somber and the calculative side of him reappeared on his face. "I hope at least Ronan succeeds in the task I gave him." When the evening came, a scenario that shook the entire Rocco's empire to the core happened. As if already planned from weeks, the swift arrangements such as millions of big and wide projection screens via artifacts were spread around all the major cities and towns of the empire in the main streets and public places. There was a sense of fear among the masses, as if the pure-blood faction was trying to stage a coup or something. Even the government authorities didn't dare to prohibit this display of force and breaking the law. The whole atmosphere was grim and everything was happening as if an inevitable doom was about to come over the empire. For people in the capital Rathna, millions of people had gathered over their respective clans' headquarters and miles of the area owned by their clans. Just the Vanderite clan alone had 2 million people spread around the 50 kilometers of their clan's main headquarters. And everything was being maintained in order. Hundreds of flying ships, warships and projection artifacts were spread around various sectors of the land, and the vampire clan was going to burn 4,000 of their clan members alive as they were part of the traitor group who wanted to take over the clan and joined hands with the enemies to topple the current management by killing Sail Va Vivian. This was the story that was spread for public knowledge. And the other subsidiary vampire clans spread around the empire were performing the same ritual. But this wasn't just the single clan but most of the clans from the Pureblood faction who were publicly displaying their traitors to the masses for some reason. Many did not understand why would one of the most powerful factions in the empire stupidly and boldly display the number of traitors in their midst to the public instead of burying the matters underground. Unlike the vampire clan, the elves had prepared the method of hanging while the dwarven clans resorted to burying their traitors alive in the ground. The demi-human clans such as the Wolfkins had arrangements to cut off limbs while the Snakekins had decided to kill their traitors by throwing them inside the pits full of hot oil. Botur clans resorted to their most savage method. By crushing their traitors under gigantic boulders since they had exoskeleton armors all over their bodies, like crushing a crab's shell with a hammer. In the main headquarters of the Vanderite clan was an open ground sizing for 3 kilometers in length. Thousands of soldiers surrounded these traitors who were tied in chains and unable to use any of their skills and abilities under restriction seals. And at the end of it was a gigantic platform that had 28 wooden poles that had big logs placed at the bottom. And on each of them, the traitors who had high positions va authority in the clan's management were tied and sealed using many magic seals and formations. All of their mouths were gagged. Some were even 4th-stage saints, but they too were shown no mercy. Amongst these people was Caraberos Mor Vanderijk, the vampire mage who had targeted Khan previously and was caught by the clan leader as soon as Khan finally found his identity. This 1st-stage saint rank mage was now reduced to a brain-dead person who couldn't even maintain his head in a single direction, swirling it around like a mentally ill person. And behind these people was a platform even higher. There were 12 seats where the most powerful people of the clan sat, namely the elders and the clan leader, Ismatrazel Mor Vanderijk. Every single one of them was donned in their white and golden regal clothes, as if the kings of different countries were gathered for a gathering. Every single one of them was a 2nd-stage saint and above. These were the main powerhouses of this clan. The clan leader finally stood up and started his speech. The same occurrence was happening over 200 different clans spread over the empire, and all of it was being broadcasted to the masses. People of the Vanderijk clan. As all of you may know, the people that are tied in front of me are the traitors who betrayed our clan for the sake of personal gains and agendas. They conspired with our enemies who want nothing but our demise only for the sake of authority and power. They intended to cripple our future generations so they could take over later and have their own people get into the positions who would run our clan in the near future. So that when the time came, all of your fates would be sealed and left in the hands of these scums who would even kill their own kin for the sake of power. So tell me, what should we do with these traitors? Tell me, what is your judgment? Declared and asked the clan leader. At this moment, his grandiose and heroic figure was being broadcast in front of billions of citizens spread around the entire empire. Death to the traitors! Kill them! Burn them! 1 million people shouted in unison in the main headquarters of the clan. Just the noise alone shook the ground as if it was bound to crack. On the other side, billions of members of all the different clans and citizens belonging to the same species were also cheering loudly. Even they felt a relevance to this declaration because nobody wanted someone in their family who would sell them out or kill them in their sleep. After delivering the speech for another 10 minutes, he finally signaled the commencement of burning the traitors. And as for the 28 traitors who were tied on the platform below, they felt their soul shudder in disbelief because they had been assigned a particular executioner. A slim and tall figure of a breathtakingly beautiful girl, clad in the clan's signature armor as her long silver hair fluttered in the air, walked towards the row of these traitors who were tied on the thick wooden poles. This beautiful girl with bright red eyes simply stirred the hearts of millions of males and females alike who were watching from the different corners of the empire as soon as her face appeared on the screens. It was the very girl who tried to kill Khan on the day he arrived at the vampire clan's headquarters. The daughter of the clan leader and Sale's stepsister, Vivian Moore Vandereyck. The grand execution ceremony was happening throughout many powerful clans who ruled over regions and had millions of people under them. And their spearhead, the Vandereyck clan, was no exception. Vivian Moore Vandereyck, who appeared like some princess of a kingdom and made millions of hearts stir and beat faster than usual, as soon as she appeared on the screens spread throughout the entire empire, when nearly 2 billion citizens were watching the grand execution ceremony from different places. To the onlookers, it appeared as if a silver-haired angel descended from the heavens and was about to deliver divine retribution. Her pristine and innocent appearance had soothed the souls of many males, and the number of people who were transfixed on the spot and had a love-on-first-sight scenario were in millions. But little did anyone know that this seemingly pure and untouchable goddess was actually a ruthless killer and one of these traitors herself. The reason why she was not hung on one of these poles was known only to a dozen people. In Vivian's right hand was a brightly burning torch, and she was tasked by the clan to burn these 28 traitors who once held influential and important positions in the clan. There was even a third-stage saint-rank swordsman. One of the elders lied amongst these traitors. Rather than sparing the life of this powerful warrior, the Vandereyck clan had decided to kill him instead. At this same moment, Ismatrazil several of the other elders were looking at Vivian as if trying to gauge her expressions and see if she had the resolve to burn these people or not. Unbeknownst to everyone watching her throughout the empire, she felt a chill in her body and had goosebumps all over it. The clan heiress gathered the strength to move her body as she walked from one end to the other and started to light up the wooden logs below them as the fire quickly spread and consumed these vampires. Unlike the fictional stories on Earth, vampires in Vantria had no problem walking in the sun or could only be killed using a silver bullet or a stake to the heart. They functioned just like humans, but one thing was the most effective to kill them: death by fire. Their bodies did not have any form of resistance against fire at all. Like meeting a catalyst, they would burn 5 times faster and thoroughly compared to many other species. And hence, this method was chosen by the clan. One by one, bodies were burned alive, but no screams were heard as all these people had been gagged and couldn't use any of their skills or mana under the seals. All they could do was flail their bodies before turning into ash at a visible rate. From the end where she started stood Sale. His countenance was completely unfazed, maintaining the aura of nobility and the clan air. But inside he was laughing happily, because the people Vivian was ordered to burn were once her own allies and backers who conspired against him and chose to sell him off to the enemies. The ones who shared the same ideology were being sent to the afterlife by her own hands. He was simply rejoicing after looking at the irony. Vivian, on the other hand, was feeling her soul was being crushed as she was forced to kill her allies. To everyone watching the ceremony, it felt like she was given the biggest honor, but in reality, she was traumatized from killing her backers who she spent years together behind the shadows. When she reached the end and everyone except one vampire was left alive, Vivian let out a tear of grief. And since it was being broadcast to everyone, Ismatrazil decided to speak in. My daughter, Vivian Moore Vandereyck, is thoroughly devastated from the fact that among the people she just burned now lies an elder of our clan who watched her grow since she was but a newborn. The person she had a sense of attachment to has turned out to be someone who traded her life for power and authority. So to kill someone who she once admired is weighing down on her, clarified the clan leader in his kingly voice. But to onlookers this was as emotional as it could be. Thousands of weak-willed also teared up as if they too felt her pain. In the end, Vivian completed the ceremony by putting Caraberos on fire. The same fate was delivered to the thousands of traitors who served these people by the soldiers of the clan. The same was happening over other clans as they too punished the traitors in their own respective methods. Gruesome execution happened, and it sent a message to everyone about what happens when you betray your own people. The truly informed and powerful understood that this was also a form of a declaration against the enemy factions, that the pureblood faction will not tolerate any of this in the future. That there was a line that was crossed and they didn't fear killing even their strongest fighters if they joined the enemy side. When the night finally came, the entire estate was finally cleared out. Millions of people who came to watch the ceremony were escorted to their respective accommodations. Only a few people knew that this whole grand execution plan was actually something in the works for over a month. As for who planned it all, nobody knew except for the top clan members and people of the faction council. At this moment, inside the Elders' Council Hall, all the members who were present during the execution ceremony, including the clan leader, were kneeling in front of an elderly vampire who was extremely frail and looked like he had one leg in the coffin just from his appearance, was sitting on a throne. "It is done. Everything you planned for was executed perfectly as you previously commanded, Great Father," spoke Ismatrazil. "Ah! We are lucky that we found out about one of the culprits and everything happened according to our plans. You too made a good choice to use that human boy as a bait, my son," spoke this elderly and frail figure who had long silver hair dropping to his knees. His gaze then landed on a female who was now wrapped in chains from her hands to her torso. She too was kneeling on the ground like everyone else, albeit not with respect but because of extreme fear in her eyes. After looking at her sullen and ashen expression, the great ancestor of the Vandereyck clan, who was also the leader of the Pureblood faction, a 7th stage saint rank entity and also one of the 3 strongest people in their entire empire, asked in a tyrannical tone that sent shivers to everyone present in the room, "Now, my dear granddaughter, are you ready to repent for your crimes against the clan?" Alistair Moore Vandereyck, the previous clan leader of the Vandereyck clan and the current faction leader of the Pureblood faction, now sat in a carefree manner on his throne. "You've greatly disappointed me. Both Iva, your father, had high hopes for you, and whatever qualms you had with Sale, it should have stayed in the clan. You've committed the taboo of colluding with the enemy, and to think that you share the same ideology of our species ruling over others. I thought we taught you better than that. That was the reason why our species nearly went extinct in the Empire once. And this approach instilled by my predecessor Vami is the reason why we vampires are now one of the strongest forces in the Empire. But you wish to cross that line and destroy everything we've built over the past 3 centuries?
If not for me và do Father,
The faction council would have decreed to burn you alive with all those traitors. But it doesn't mean you will face no consequences," spoke the old faction leader in his domineering voice that froze Vivian's entire body. His wrathful gaze had shaken her core as if she was looking at inevitable death. "Forgive me for intruding, great ancestor, but I still don't understand why did we have to go to such extreme measures? These matters should have been dealt within the faction. Why these public executions?" asked one of the elders. "To make a statement, after those runts from demi-human faction killed the majority of the clan heirs, crippling our future generations, there was a need to show that we won't take it without uttering a word. Although we can't openly declare war on them and put the entire empire in chaos. This was something that needed to be done. Otherwise, soon they would have spread the rumors about the dead clan heirs and we would have lost all our prestige anyways. As for the people responsible from their side, we've killed 50,000 of their faction members over the past month, hidden from the public eyes. This will also be a reminder for them to not cross the line ever again. And because of this display of executing the traitors, we've scared everyone who ever had a thought of it and increased the loyalty of our clan members who felt threatened for their future because of this revelation," explained the faction leader. "Understood, great ancestor," spoke the elder. "As for you, we didn't have you killed because it would have broken the spirit of our clan members to see that the clan heiress herself was one of these traitors. It would have done more harm than good. But now, you shall be punished with core binding ritual," decreed Alistair. "No! Have mercy on me, great ancestor, grandfather. I promise I will never do anything like this again. I will serve the clan with all my soul. Just give me another chance. Please!" shouted Vivian as her body was shivering in fear as soon as the decree from Alistair reached her ears. "Silence! This is your second chance. From now, your core shall be bound to your stepbrother, Sale Moore Vandereyck. You will be prohibited from having a marriage. You can no longer have a family or children of your own. Your position as the clan heiress has been discarded and you will never rise in ranks in our clan. Your candidacy for the clan leader's position has been nulled. You will serve Sale as his servant till your last days. If he dies, you will die along with him. You are to obey his every order even if it means harm to your own life. After the seal has been placed, you won't be able to kill yourself either. Your life will have only one meaning: to serve and protect your master, and serve the clan. This shall be your punishment for betraying your family, declared the old vampire, showing no mercy towards his granddaughter whom he once cherished the most. Vivian dropped on the ground. She started crying and begging for forgiveness. Her pleas for mercy filled the entire grand hall. Sale, on the other hand, looked at her with lifeless eyes as if something in him had changed. Although he was overshadowed by Vivian's talent and glory most of his life, he never truly hated her. But after finding out that she didn't even care whether he lived or died as means to accomplish her goals, he learned a very harsh lesson. Now, he didn't care whether she was killed or forced to become his slave. All he could think of was how to become strong and become worthy of being a good clan leader in the future. He looked at Vivian, who was now grabbing his leg and pleading for forgiveness, but there was no empathy for her in his eyes. Because if not for Khan showing up that day and saving him, he would have died a horrible death in a no-name place, and the now crying figure of Vivian wouldn't even have blinked twice. He had learned his lesson already, that in pursuit of power, authority, and strength, even your own family wouldn't shy away from killing you. And this was how he too had to become if he wanted to survive in this world where only the powerful made the rules. Dozens of mages then entered the and under the orders of the clan ancestor. The very painful and terrifying ritual of core binding was performed on Vivian as her soul-shuddering screams filled the grand hall. Although Alistair va Ismatrazel felt a lot of pain in their heart, they had no choice but to abide by the clan's rules. Letting Vivian live even if it meant as a slave to the clan and giving her a fate of no freedom is the best thing they could offer. Because in their clan, there was one rule that transcended everything. The clan comes first, everything else later. Great Father. What about that human boy? Asked the clan leader to his father using a telepathic communication artifact as they watched the whole procedure. To his query, the faction leader replied in a solemn tone. I know you want him as your discipline, but now is not the good time. Although he's a human, we can use the ancient bloodline ritual to turn him into a vampire, as I witnessed once more than 2 centuries ago. But first, I would like to meet this Khan you speak of, and see if he's really worthy of becoming someone like the first emperor. A week had passed ever since the grand ceremony of public executions of the traitors in the Pureblood faction. It had been the talk of the entire empire, and the scenes of merciless killings were displayed to the public on squares even now. Let it be a grown-up man or a child. Most of the populace had already seen it, although the narrative was that these traitors tried to thwart away the ruling powers and joined hands with enemies to kill the future generations. Not many knew exactly which enemy they were talking about. Not everyone in the empire had that much of free time to learn the history or enmity of these factions. Their world didn't revolve around the power struggle between the top 1%, but to people who held power and authority. Felt like a war was bound to happen. Even those who had no involvement felt a sense of uncertainty about the fate of the empire. In the Rukon district, Khan sat in his office while doing his usual work of tallying the numbers and verifying the reports and transactions for the shipments and dealings. The business was doing pretty well ever since he joined the Chamber of Commerce himself after he threatened the remaining members as Zeus. And with Houdini gone missing, the committee members were even more scared for their lives and abided by his instructions. Khan was officially granted a seat on the committee under the pretense of adding fresh blood along with 6 other new members. One of the old members was now the new president, and he now held a position in the name. Khan made it clear that he won't be partaking in the meetings or create any trouble for any of the members as long as no one bothered with his business in the district. And as a result, some of the members shifted their business related to weapon manufacturing to different districts because they feared the semi-saint rank archer named Zeus. But to Khan, this wasn't enough. What he lacked now was a true sense of security. Not for him but the company and its employees, although he could always hire new security personnel in thousands. There were two main issues he was concerned with.
Loyalty và uni.
Even if he hired some top-rank security enterprise, they were as good as a bunch of mercenaries who worked for money and had no sense of loyalty or responsibility towards the employer. There had been many incidents where the guards absconded with both the money and with goods, so he was concerned about it. Although he had more than 1,300 plus subordinates now, they were not the kind to be mixed with normal humans, and all of them were completely black, let it be their flesh or their clothes and gears. Only Omega Va, the 6 generals, had distinguishable features in terms of appearance. So there was also an issue of them mixing with normal guards. Phew! How the hell am I going to manage all of this myself? The money is no longer a problem, but I still need better ways to obtain cores and ores. And I need it not only for myself but for everyone else too. Omega 6 generals Va, then the Legion. Plus there's this snake whose stomach is even bigger compared to all of them combined. Even buying these in bulk isn't a long-term solution. It's more a waste of money than gaining good resources. Even S-rank cores sell for too high a price, and given my requirements, I would have to sell the company if I want to reach level 200, said Khan as he sighed. Human. I am a higher being, so obviously I need more resources than the rest. The so-called S-rank cores you provided me didn't even raise my level at all. A grim and ghastly voice resounded in Khan's head. What? Those were 5,000 S-rank cores, you damn serpent. Why don't you try earning them by yourself? Retorted Khan. The one who just spoke now was none other than Rudra, who had awakened from his comatose state a few days ago. He was now a level 100 entity after fully absorbing the Magma Drake's bloodline and core. And since he didn't have 100% loyalty to Khan, he didn't qualify for the importation skill and couldn't take a human form either. From what Khan anticipated, Rudra would at least need to absorb a mythical rank metamorphosis bloodline or eat the core of such being to transform and take a human form. Something that was out of Khan's reach now. Just when Khan was lost in his thoughts about how to get more resources to raise his levels, a voice rang in his head. Master! Enemies! Shouted a stoic voice in his head. Jugram, what's wrong? Asked Khan. There are multiple people are entering the company's gates. From their aura, I can say that they are far stronger than you, informed the Hell Berserker subordinate. Khan quickly activated survival instinct and hunter's intent at maximum capacity. But to his surprise, they didn't pick up any sense of danger or killing intent in the 1-kilometer radius. Who could it be? He thought. Khan quickly ran towards the ground floor and came to the entrance of the company building. What he saw then had completely baffled him. Jugram, who was a High Lord subordinate and the main person in charge of the security of their company building, was kneeling on the ground in front of a luxurious magic carriage with silver deer-like monsters pulling it. He wasn't kneeling out of respect, but because he simply couldn't stand the aura of the person that just exited this carriage used only by the nobles. A slim middle-aged elf and then a rustic warrior-like dwarf walked out of the carriage. But this wasn't just one carriage. There were 4 more of these carriages coming in belonging to different clans as per their sigils. To Khan, who had felt the aura of Caraberos, the first stage Saint Magician, he knew one thing for sure. All the people that were coming out of their respective royalish carriages had one thing in common. They were all Saints rank people. Khan now stood in front of these godly figures who could simply wipe out everything in 10 to 15 kilometers area on a whim, just from the aura alone. The weakest one of these uninvited guests was a second stage saint, while the strongest ones were at the third stage. Khan felt a sense of impending doom as the mighty figures suddenly showed up at his front door, completely unannounced. There was no grand welcome ceremony or thousands of soldiers escorting these powerhouses. As if these weren't saint rank people, one of the top figures in the entire empire, but a ragtag bunch of tourists who came to his place by mistake. "How can I be of help, sir?" asked Khan as he slightly bowed. There were 8 saints now gathered in front of him, consisting of an elf, dwarf, wolfkin, lionkin, thrall, botur, mithrans va 1 female human. All of them dressed like marquez, dukes va duchess amongst nobles. "Pardon our sudden arrival without prior information. We are here to meet the owner of this bloodborne company," spoke the middle-aged elf in the front, who was also a third stage saint. Please follow me, your lordships, spoke Khan in a respectful tone and gestured all these insanely powerful figures to follow after him. After they all came to a big meeting hall where Khan usually did the deals with big clients. All of them were seated on luxurious lavishly carved comfortable cushions chairs and were given refreshments. "Where is your owner? Why hasn't he come to greet us yet?" asked the White Wolfkin. To the question, Khan let out a sigh and sat on the main chair of the host, the owner of the company. The very next second, he quickly released his war dominance at full capacity and revealed his aura of a semi-saint rank person. Khan then placed his hands on the armrests as he spoke. "I am the owner." Shock! All the guests were slightly taken aback. Not because they felt any sense of threat from this man, but because who they thought as the normal attendant was actually the owner they had come to meet. As for why did Khan reveal his measly aura in front of these sharks? Because Khan understood that none of these people had any malicious intentions towards him, and despite being one of the top 100 strongest people in the entire empire, all of them came here in a formal manner and had no halo of entitlement or overbearing aura around them. They weren't here to cause trouble as far as his intuition could tell him. You! So the rumors were right. So young yet a semi-saint rank already, spoke the old dwarf with eyes wide open. The rest of the saints were no exception. So you're Khan? Looks like Lord Ismatrazil indeed spoke the truth, said the mature woman, a second stage saint. Tell me something, Mr. Khan. Which clan do you belong to? And who was your teacher? Asked the Green Mithrans. Yes, I would like to know as well, spoke the regally dressed thrall. None. And I'm self-taught, replied Khan solemnly. Another surprise. Even these top figures of the empire were left speechless. How's that possible? There are only 5 semi-saints under the age of 30 and all of them belong to top clans. They're either their heirs or children of the saints. How come we never heard of you? Asked the Red Lionkin saint, but Khan quickly interjected before more questions piled up. Pardon my abrupt interjection, but can I ask why are all big powerhouses such your grand selves here? I don't recall having made any form of relationship with any of you, asked Khan sternly. Ah, where are our manners? Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Imhir Rav Emrius, clan leader of the Nilfgaardian Elven clan, said the third stage Elven saint. I'm called Zoltan Vici, clan leader of the Dwarven clan. I am Triss Remigold, leader of the Council of Witches. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Mr. Khan, spoke the redhead lady in the green dress. I'm Dandelion Pankratsev. I extend my best wishes to you, Mr. Khan, said the blue thrall. One by one, all of them introduced themselves. There was no sense of pride or pretense of superiority in their tone. Although Khan was far younger than them, all of them showed the perfect decorum fitting of their personality positions. Yeah. And I'm Khan of Rivia, he thought. Khan nodded in response to all of them. Actually, all of us have come here to personally thank you as soon as Lord Ismatrazil told us about your part in catching the traitors amongst our clans, spoke the elf. The next second, however, the atmosphere in the room turned somber. Thanks to you, we were finally able to avenge our children and clan's heirs who were mercilessly killed more than a month ago, he said. So that's what it was, thought Khan as he tried to hide the surprise on his face. No need, Lord Imhir. I did it to save my own life as well. I too was one of the targets for saving the Vanderite clan heir's life, revealed Khan truthfully. To be honest, we didn't come just to offer our thanks, but for business as well, said Triss in her melodious voice. Ha! This is unexpected, said Khan as he was slightly taken aback. Because in reality, Khan was not even qualified to even sit at the same table as these powerhouses, let alone being treated as an equal. We've come here after hearing specifically from Lord Vandereyck about how they've greatly benefited recently from buying their weapons supply from you and how the quality itself was far better than what others offer at twice the price. And I will not lie. We had some of our people buy these weapons and armors from your stores spread over the district, and I must say, we found those claims to be true. So tell us, Mr. Khan, would you like to do business with our clans as well? Revealed the Elven Saint to Khan. This question seemed more like teasing. He barely managed to jump from his seat and say yes. But the next second, a brilliant plan hatched in his mind. Because soon, he would finally have what he was worried about just half an hour ago. Soon, Con would have his own
Shielder và the SWAT.
In the main meeting room, 9 people sat on luxurious chairs, all of them varying from different races, species, and skin color. But the atmosphere of the room was tranquil despite the top and mighty figures sharing the same room. Normally, people of this caliber would only gather together when a celebration or gathering of top clans and the top 1% of the empire had a reason to get together. So what do you think, Mr. Khan? Are you interested? Asked Triss, the redhead witch. About that. May I ask, why are you interested in doing business with our company? I'm pretty sure there are plenty of bigger companies, given the kind of supply your clans would need. I'm afraid we're not that capable as of yet, said Khan. For a company that was established in a single district, the offer didn't make sense. Because these clans would need weapons arms for more than 80 million soldiers. And his company's current output was 30 million at best. We're well informed about your current capacity and know that you are centralized in Rukhan district only. So we have some propositions, said the White Wolfkin. What we propose is that you do these deals exclusively only to us and clans of our faction only. In return, we will also make rules that we shall only use your services as far as certain weaponry and tools are concerned. And you give our deals and contracts the first priority. And if there are any orders for customized weapons and armors, we're to be put above others. How does that sound? Asked the Elven Saint. At this moment, instead of getting overwhelmed or feeling greedy, Khan had a calm aura around him and spoke. I think I have a better alternative. How about I give all of you a 30% discount on selling cost on top of the conditions you mentioned? Gasp! All the saints, who were the top leaders of their respective clans and organizations, were surprised. Because if you looked at the grand picture, this 30% discount could save them hundreds of millions in cost on top of the 50% they were already saving by dealing with the Bloodborne Company instead of trading with their usual partners. But I have some conditions as well, spoke Khan with a slight grin on his face. Do tell. I believe we can work things out if you stick to your words, said the Lionkin as he folded his arms and looked at Khan with curiosity. In exchange for these exorbitant discounts, what I want is all your clans becoming my shield and my sword, said Khan as he interlocked his fingers and folded his legs, sitting as the main boss in a political party's meeting. What do you mean? Asked Zoltan, the Dwarven Saint. What I mean is I need all of your clans and organizations to work as the ones in charge of my company's security. Let it be my stores, my warehouses, transportations, shipments, and any properties that are in the company's name, said Khan in a calm tone. What? What do you take us for? Do we look like some kind of mercenaries to you? Exclaimed the Thrall Saint. Hear me out, Sir Dandelion. This isn't like what you think. Currently, I have limited properties and spaces where I can do the production. If our deals are contracted, I would naturally have to expand my company and open more facilities, have more warehouses, stores, and buildings for management to meet the demand. And one of the important parts of it would be the security. Instead of hiring some unreliable organization and weaklings who are only there to fill up numbers without having actual combat experience or skillets, I'd rather prefer to trust an ally than a hired help. I want your trained fighters and strong warriors in charge of my defense and security. Naturally, I would station and distribute your forces on my own accords. This way you spend less, provide some help in, let's say, a few hundred thousands of soldiers combined from all of your clans and save plenty of money in the process, declared Khan. Sigh. Aren't you afraid that one day we might as well take over your business by force then? I'm sure that you're not a fool who is not informed about the consequences of leaving your fate in someone's hands, said Emmer, the Elven Saint, in a direct tone, not hiding his concerns. Khan nodded and replied in a stern tone. Let's say that all of you do plan to gang up on me and do think about doing what you say. The key is the Grandmaster Blacksmith, Sir Albestros Winston. Without him, there is no Bloodborne Company. And if you try to force him into working for you, Just one word of it and others who are looking for big opportunities and have the same amount of manpower as you would gather and oppress your clans under the pretense of justice. Besides, you may not know this, but I'm a close friend of Sale, and Lord Ismatrazel also has a favorable impression of me. After all, he did want me to become his disciple. Shock! Gasp! All the saints present were surprised and caught off guard as soon as Khan revealed the last part. This kid isn't simple. He's too calculative and mature for his age. Spoke the elf to all the other saints us a telepathic transmission artifact. No wonder Lord Ismatrazel told us to work with him. Wait, now that I think about it. He said Triss. Yes, Lord Ismatrazel sent us here to become his shield. He knew we would have no choice but to become his backers one way or another, even if the kid didn't say so himself. Replied the thrall. Don't miss the last part. If even Lord Ismatrazel wants the human kid to become his disciple, then think about the potential this boy has. Maybe in 5 decades. He could even become stronger than any of us. Just him being a semi-saint at this age without the backing or resources of any big clan or a faction already speaks about him being a once-in-a-millennia prodigy. I'm afraid his talent even exceeds the Raven Sorceress of the neutral faction, who is of the same age as him. No wonder the Vandereyck clan wants him on their side. He could also become one of our top powerhouses in the future if he joins the Pureblood faction. Spoke the Wolfkin. Yes, let's not waste time. Agree to his conditions quickly. Said the Lionkin telepathically. We agree, declared Emmer. Good. This meets the shield part of our deal. Khan took a pause and gave a slight grin and continued in a merry voice. Let's talk about the sword. Everyone who thought that they were finally done with the business deal were left surprised again after Khan declared that the previous arrangement was only half the part. What? This isn't the complete deal? Asked Zoltan. Yeah. The previous part only concerns security. But I've recently been enlightened about how I'm shorthanded when it comes to fending off my rivals or starting a crusade against those who intentionally make an enemy of me. What I want is an army of more than 100,000 soldiers ready to fight under my command should I ever need to fight some force in the future. And I mean those numbers from each of your clans. Said Khan as he explained the sword part of their deal. As soon as his words resounded in the hall, the atmosphere quickly turned silent. Some of the members felt that Khan was reaching for a yard after being offered an inch. To use the lives of their people in his own fights. This was simply unacceptable. Bang! Who do you think you're talking to? Thousands of people come to our clans just to get a minute of our time. Va beg us to work with them. Do we look like some idiots who will offer the lives of our people just for the sake of saving some money? Shouted the Botur Saint. At least hear me first. Spoke Khan and then continued again. There's a reason why I'm asking for this condition. It's not like I'm really going to need your clansmen for a war. It's more of a precautionary measure. And on top of that, I would look after all the provisions and expenses required should a situation like that arises. What I want isn't an army to fight a war but a force of deterrence. Something that would scare my enemies even in their dreams if they plan to harm me or my people. And I am offering you one more thing as a compliment if all of you accept this condition. He said. What is it? It better be worth it. Said Emmer. Out of total payments of our deals, you can pay 30% of it with
Răng và Hydra Monster Core và Mana Oret Propocan.
Huh? Why? Isn't money more beneficial to you? Asked Triss. Well, I'll be honest. Although we're currently not short on resources, given your requirements va quantity for each of your clans, we'd soon fall short on them. You all know how important cores are. The higher the quality, the faster we can finish the products. And Sir Winston also expressed that he will prioritize the orders of the customers and clans who pay with S-rank cores va ores. He says it makes his work even more powerful va refined. If I try to get them on the market price, I'll have to waste all my fortune va. I won't be able to get these resources in bulk either. So I think people of your prestige va background can easily manage them va help me deliver the products on time as well. Explained Khan. Although he spoke those with just va righteous expression on his face. This was an outright lie. Done. Deal. I agree. complied all the saints haphazardly. Humph. Suckers, thought Khan in his mind, although there was some truth to it. It wasn't that important factor in the production of epic rank weapons Va armors. The S-rank cores did help in the procedure as a source of mana Va, infusing different elements to them. But in the end, it all depended on the skills of the blacksmith. What Khan really aimed for here was the high-grade resources he needed to level up. Even with his current wealth, he could barely afford enough S-rank cores Va ores for himself. And he'd have nothing left for the subordinates who also needed these in upcoming months as soon as they were done processing the cores they ate last time. Only Khan was able to absorb the energy to raise his levels in a matter of hours, but others still needed weeks despite rising in ranks. This was the difference between normal creatures and Khan, who had the ability absorption divine ability. And after he threw in the Grandmaster Blacksmith's name, the hungry wolves lunged at the meat as soon as it was revealed. But to all these saint rank leaders this was a big steal, because although their clans had these resources in millions of numbers, even they had to spend a long time just processing these cores and absorb the mana and energy to rise in ranks. And beside them, there weren't others who could utilize them at a fast pace. The higher the grade of the core, the more time required. And their clans had millions of S-rank cores and thousands of SS-rank cores. They had water spilling out of the cup already. But with Khan's last proposition, not only would they save a lot of money, they could also make great use of these resources. Plus the priority given to their orders by the peak Grandmaster Blacksmith himself. That was already far more appealing to them than just saving money. They were getting far more than what they were paying for. And another thing, I will offer an extra 10% discount if you lend us your flying ships to do the deliveries Va use for transportation. Plus, if you want a form of dealership contract Va sell our product in your own business settlements. I will give that clan first priority when producing the consignments," said Khan as he threw the final pitch in the chaos he already created. "I accept. Count me in, Mr. Khan. I hope you stick to your promise. Please draw the paperwork soon," exclaimed the saints as like children wanting candy. The terms Khan was offering them were far beneficial to them on many levels for both their respective clans and for their personal needs. Now did they understand why the Vanderite clan shifted all of their tenders for weapons supply to the Bloodborne Company. The clan leaders could see that they were saving a lot of money here, and by using their own forces, they could also create a big network of business with the help of Bloodborne Company. Khan then took out a dozen of Bloodbind contracts along with the Blood Oath token he robbed from Houdini. He gave a light smirk and spoke. "Let's begin our new partnership, shall we?" As soon as Khan took out the Bloodbind contracts via the Blood Oath token, the mighty and godly figures were slightly surprised. Normally, it was them who demanded for these measures to the people who came to make deals with them, and that too with terms and conditions which only favored their side. But here it was Khan deciding the terms and conditions of the contract and didn't hesitate twice before he directly took out these contracts and the Blood Oath token. Usually, just their word was enough to make sure the deal was considered done, but in this case, it was the young and a beginner businessman making them sign the dealings and even using the artifact to facilitate the deal. As if their word va reputation had no meaning to them, and the young semi-saint rank human did not have an ounce of respect towards their background or prestige. But at this moment, they did not waste their time arguing or doing unnecessary talk, since the terms and conditions of their agreement were far favorable to their side, and in the long term, they would save their respective clans and organizations a lot of wealth. Just from the impression they received from Khan, who was not only a prodigy in their eyes, but also a fearless person who didn't even show a hint of slight fear or cowardice in front of them, earned him their acknowledgement. When someone of their rank went to a business meeting, it would be the host licking their shoes just to receive these saint rank people's grace. But here, they were treated like a normal customer if the 30% discount term was out of the equation. To people like them, who themselves were fearless of anything or anyone. This way of conducting business while retaining your calm demeanor throughout the whole meeting and not getting overwhelmed after knowing who they were had given all the clan leaders a good sense of understanding about the young man. In the next few hours, both the contracts and the blood oath binding was done. The first batch of weapons, armors, and tools along with the expected quantity was decided. Since it was the first time, The contracts were done only on an annual basis and both sides would be subjected to penalty should either of them fail to deliver upon the agreement or the payments. On the paper, it looked like Khan was losing 40% of the money he should be receiving. But in reality, he had benefited from these deals the most. Although he wasn't making too much profit. But what he gained was free security, skilled and trained fighters to guard his properties and business sites, having the names of these powerful clans officially attached to his company after he would have their people protect his enterprise. And it greatly solved the problem of expanding his business to other districts. From now on, these clans who also signed the dealership contracts on top of the arms deals would sell his company's products in their established shops and settlements, although they'd make a small profit over it. But with that, the Bloodborne company would rise in popularity, prestige, and the name of Albestro's Winston, the Grandmaster Blacksmith, would also spread throughout other districts of Rathna. This was a form of free exposure va marketing. And unlike him, these forces had far better ways of transportation, including flying ships for long-distance shipping and deliveries. So he'd also use their devices to his own advantage. And there was little chance of them ganging up on him, as he would be the one to place their soldiers on buildings va stores of his own choosing. Naturally, he would mix them, which would also prohibit their respective forces from colluding va stealing his products. Even with being part of the pureblood faction, these forces weren't neighbors or had blood relations to pull off such stunts. And the problem regarding the amount of resources Khan Va, his High Lord subordinates, were in dire need of was finally solved as soon as he would receive these S-rank cores in the quantity of 100,000s every month. So he and all of the subordinates could steadily level up without having to go hunting in the forest and search for legendary rank monsters at this point. Because even High Lord rank monsters didn't raise too many levels and they are very rare to begin with. Just the down payment in orichalcum plates he received from all the 8 Saint rank clan leaders was worth 1 billion gold coins. And the entire deal would get his company's annual income to more than 8 billion gold coins if he factored in the usual business earnings via the money he'd get from the Vanderite clan, his first ever customer. After he made calculations about the taxes management va salary of the employees, he was completely overwhelmed, because even after giving Albestros his cut, all the expenditures done on management, transportation va production, Khan would still earn 1 billion gold dramas as annual income. And that too with only his current capacity. If he opened more stores and company buildings, there was a chance to make the double in just upcoming months. Khan heaved a sigh and let out a gentle smile as he spoke. Let's get to work. 1 month later, Khan now sat in the main office of his new company building. The new headquarters of the Bloodborne Enterprise was now 5 times bigger, wider, and just in their new headquarter alone were more than 20,000 people working dozens of enormous buildings, from logistics to production and distribution. He had all of the specific departments set in different building in this 6-kilometer premises. The total of 42,000 employees and 97 shops were now under the name of Bloodborne Company. And even more blacksmiths were begging to join their enterprise to work under va learn from Albestros every single day. With the 1 billion dramas he received, the first thing Khan did was to buy out one of the biggest and most suitable industrial facilities situated in the central area of the Rukon district. The previously used building given to them by Prithvi, the Grandmaster Alchemist, was no longer efficient for their use as the base of operation. But he didn't abandon the site. Instead, he still kept it as it is and hired more people to work there as a branch office. The old building was situated at the northern end of the district. And Khan then bought another big company building at the southern end of the district. So these 2 branches acted as storage, distribution va production facilities who would act as a hub to deploy the product to their partners, the forces of the Saint rank clan leaders. Given how his company was getting popular and the demand was increasing drastically, the first 3 weeks alone went into settling the new places and hiring more employees with bloodbind contracts in play. Jugram was in charge of the security of the main headquarters where Khan also worked, while he left Omega in charge of managing and protecting the old building. As for the new branch office, was left in charge a particular murderous and sadist subordinate of his who recently met the requirements to take a human form. It was the same subordinate who liked nothing but playing with the dead. Cyril, the necromancer, after he took a human form, Cyril was now a dashing black-haired grown-up man who wore glasses and always had a mage staff a grimoire in his hands. Cyril looked a lot like Khan. Just a more nerdy and bookworm version of him. He was clad in white and purple mage robes and seemed like an extremely intelligent person from first glance. Even to many female employees, he appeared as the mysterious and lady-killer boss just like those Korean drama shows. Author. Reference art for Cyril human form given in chapter comments. Check it out. And just like the other subordinates who inherited an aspect of his personality after reaching 100% loyalty va taking a human form, Cyril gained the calculative and workaholic side of him, and being an undead subordinate himself. Cyril was very curious about the aspect of death and wanted to kill people and experiment upon their bodies. So to calm Cyril down, Khan had no choice but to offer the peak Grandmaster Mage and the female Orc Warrior he killed in the headquarters of Red Right Hand organization to him in the name of scientific research. After working tirelessly for the past month, Khan now had officially established himself in the capital and set himself up as a person with money, resources, and authority to some extent. Even though he wasn't as powerful as the major clans, factions, or the government authorities, he was still ahead of the 4 billion citizens of the Rakos Empire. What took many people decades of hard work, he did it in just 4 months by playing his cards right and making friends of the powerful people. Khan wasn't some thousands of years old cultivator reincarnated as a young boy who knew all the recipes of high-grade pills va potions and even knew how to make legendary weapons because of the knowledge va experience from his past life. And neither was he a top video game expert of some MMORPG game sent back in time who knew the rules va easy ways to become strong very quickly or make money and resources based on the knowledge of the future events. He was someone with a clean slate when he entered this new world. So this was why he had to work his ass off to make it big and even risk his life in the mean process. Because the idea of a weak MC suddenly rising ranks, power, authority, and fighting the top dogs of the world didn't work in real life. So he had to play all his cards carefully. After everything was finally settled, Khan had now officially established himself in the capital and possessed everything he needed in order to grow strong and live his life on his own accord. For him, the fruits of his labor had finally paid off.